Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to Super Game Brothers, our weekly board game and video game podcast that we do as two super gamer brothers.
Oh.
Yeah. Even though I took the R out, we're not the Super Gamer Brothers. I don't know why, but Super Game Brothers I thought sounded better. It doesn't matter. Excited to be here. Devin, how are you doing today? Happy Juneteenth. Here when we're recording. I have the day off of work because of Juneteenth.
What? Okay, I saw something about Juneteenth and I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah, June 19th, I believe, is today, right? It's the day that slavery was abolished in the United States. So it's a national holiday, which is awesome.
Oh, yeah, happy Juneteenth to you too. I am doing wonderful. Yep. I'm breathing. I'm healthy. Wake up every day with a smile on my face.
Nice.
So
I wake up every day. I don't know if I usually have a smile on my face, but I do wake up every day. I have this weird eye condition, so I have to. Yeah, it's really fun. I take my contacts out at night, and then I have to put this cream in both of my eyes, and then close my eyes and kind of wiggle them around so that the cream gets everywhere in my eyes. And then from that point forward, I'm basically a useless human. I fumble to the bed as well as I can, probably getting that cream everywhere. And so, yeah, I usually wake up with creamy, crusty eyes and not knowing what year it is. So I don't wake up with a smile on my face usually, but I do wake up with the weird eye cream everywhere.
Interesting. You never know what other people are having to do in their lives or what they're dealing with. I didn't even know this, and you're my sibling.
Yeah, it's just a dumb thing. And as a different tangent, we just talked about autofocus, and my freaking webcam is autofocusing all over the place. So I'm going to turn it off. Out of here, autofocus. And then I'm just going to manually focus on my face. That's going to look weird for a second, everybody. Okay, that looks good right there. Now I just will not move.
Gotta love settings.
I'm not going to move for the next 2 hours.
Yep, no moving for you.
No moving. Yeah, cool. Well, I'm glad that you're vibing. You're happy. You wake up with a smile. Walk to the closet. Start streaming with a smile.
I do my best. Yeah. I'm just like, all right, we're doing this thing. It's 6 a.m. Go live.
You might be. You might be infested by that smile monster. I have yet to see that movie, but I watched the trailer for the new one on your stream actually, and I was like, ooh, that looks creepy. I need to watch these.
Oh, you were there for that?
I was, yeah. That's a creepy trailer.
Oh, those movies actually do a pretty dang good job at being scary.
It's crazy. Sometimes I feel like the simplest things are the scariest. That is the whole premise of that movie is somebody just awkwardly smiling at you and you don't know why. And that is a scary thing.
Oh, yeah.
It reminds me of this other horror movie that I think is great. A little mature. Don't watch it unless you're an adult. But It Follows. Very, very good horror movie. Just about this thing that won't stop following you. And it just walks towards you in a straight line the whole movie. Very creepy movie. Simplicity.
It is a good one.
I think in horror movies it's good. So who knows? Maybe Devin will be the star of Smile 3 as a streamer.
I could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually talking to our cousin about horror movies the other day. And I said, I love creativity in horror movies, but there are some things that I can't stand. When they try to go above and beyond with just... For example, we were watching this scene and this girl's looking into this room through a crack in the door, and they tried to make this scene so scary by having this other lady on the opposite side of the door poke her head into the little gap. And I was just like...
Jump scare.
Well, it wasn't even a jump scare. She just did it slowly, you're not supposed to be here. And I was just like, oh my goodness gracious. I don't know. Some things are so overused in horror films. It's
yeah, try to be a little different, but stay simple when you're different, I think is. Yeah, because you're right.
Love me some horror, though.
Yeah, ditto. That does happen a lot. Somebody's looking down a hallway or looking in a keyhole. It's a pretty common one. And then another head, looks through the keyhole. Yeah, I agree. That one is used many a time. Cool. Well, I'm gonna have to text you about some more horror movie recommendations because I need a horror fix. It's been a good probably 6 months since I've been able to talk my wife into a scary movie. I think I'm taking her to dinner tonight. So after we I spend some money on dinner, she's probably gonna be more likely to watch a scary movie. That's
Oh yeah, that's all you got to do.
yeah. What else is going on in the world? The Celtics won, Devin. We're terrible predictors of professional basketball.
Yeah.
Mavs struggled a lot. I think especially Kyrie Irving, man. I feel like he really struggled. But I don't know. Fun to watch still. Very high level basketball, and the Celtics, they're very good. Other thing, I went on a trip this last week to a little lake that I think is on the border of Utah and Idaho. I think one half of the lake's in Idaho and the other half's in Utah, if I'm not mistaken. It's called Bear Lake. Very cool name. It's a fun place. We used to go there a lot growing up. We had family reunions there basically every year, so very nostalgic place for me too. We weren't in like the same ideal beach area because that's an expensive area that only our extremely frugal grandmother could afford. But it was fun to be in a cabin up there. Went and got some raspberry milkshakes. And right before we came home, kind of at the end of the trip, our 2-year-old fell down probably about 7 feet of this retaining wall that is covered in rocks, and his tooth went through his lip. It was a little scary for a minute, blood everywhere. I took a picture. There's just blood all over that rock. And we decided to leave it there. So they're going to think, what the heck happened here? It was like a horror movie happened here at this cabin. But he's okay. It doesn't even need stitches, and it's healing up really well. But Devin,
did you get to watch him fall? See, like rolling and stuff?
No, we didn't see it. We just saw the aftermath of him stuck kind of on this rock. And it was actually kind of good. He could have fallen much farther and gotten more hurt. I sound like a very neglectful parent having my son fall down a big retaining hill, but it was kind of a weird circumstance. Anyways, I was going to ask you, Devin, I can think of a couple times, but have you ever been really hurt like that? Either lots of blood, laceration, broken bone, or anything? While you're thinking, I was thinking of mine. I've never broken a bone. And the only time I've been close, I slammed my thumb in a car door and had to wear a thumb brace. And they thought it was maybe broken, but they didn't want to do x-rays. And then just this last week, I burned my hand on the oven. So I've got this burn right here. But other than that, I don't get hurt often. Like I've sprained an ankle. There was one time we used to live in this duplex, and I put in with some help from my dad and my uncle. We put in laminate flooring, and I was cutting that on a table saw and cut myself pretty bad on my arm. So I have a scar on my arm. But that wasn't like a ton of blood. Didn't need stitches either. So I haven't had any like crazy injury stories. Maybe I shouldn't say that because I'm going to get in like a Final Destination car accident tomorrow. But
that'd be nice to just get like impaled by a stop sign.
I mean, if you're going to go, at least leave a cool news article and story. And maybe
exactly
they could post that stop sign like right there by your gravestone. That'd look pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Anyways, but Devin,
I agree.
You ever been gruesomely injured?
As far as gruesome, I've definitely cut my ankle open riding BMX. Like your ankle hits your sprocket, which is a little spiky thing that holds the chain. And it was all white in there and weird looking.
Yikes.
But the biggest one for me was I broke my left wrist skateboarding. And I tried to catch myself when I fell, and it just like snapped. I don't remember if it was one or both bones in my left wrist, but the whole arm was twisted like a noodle, just completely the wrong way, just backwards. And that'll make your head feel weird. I couldn't look at it. I had to just like hold it on my stomach, and I ran home. And my friend was like, just cry, man. Just cry. You just need to cry right now. I was like, I don't know how to feel. I don't know. And I went home, and my mom was like, or our mom, she's like, well, we better make sure it's broken. So we went to the neighbor's house. Said, do you want to look at this? He's like, oh, yeah. I'm like, well, I think it's broken.
I think since it's
like you could
twist it all the way around.
Looks like a dang screw. But no, I hardly remember anything. I've broke my collarbone, but I just instantly got knocked out when that happened. So that wasn't like really, really intense for me. I just couldn't lift my shoulder. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't got hurt that much either, but I also don't do anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm not at risk of getting hurt very often. What am I going to do? Trip over my Ethernet cord into my bed?
Yeah, we've talked about the floating Ethernet cord. That might be the time that you break a limb next. The one I was thinking of, I think when we were really young, we were playing kind of golf in the backyard with real golf clubs, which was probably not smart. I think wiffle balls this day, because we did have a different day where a golf ball went through a window. But I think we got something stuck in the tree, and I think it was me and you were trying to get the thing out of the tree with the golf clubs. We were kind of swinging them over our heads, and I'm pretty sure I clocked you on accident on top of the head with this metal putter. I think I split your head open.
I feel like I have a memory of this as well, but I have no idea.
I hit you so
probably
hard,
because I got hit in the head with it. Yeah. This is making a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah.
How my life has turned out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. Everyone's gonna think I'm not a good older brother anymore, but that was one that came to mind. But yeah, for me, I haven't had anything. Maybe you need to come over here and clock me with a golf club. We'd be even.
Yeah, I could get payback. I might feel better.
Yeah. Give me a nice scar. Scars are cool. Maybe make sure to like hit me right across the eyebrow. Get one of those cool eyebrow scars that they always give you in the character creation menu of video.
The one of 6 face scars.
Yep, that's always
and it's
one.
Always right there.
Yeah. So I could be a model for video game character creation screens for the rest of my life. You might make me millions of dollars by hitting me there.
That'd be nice to just be a preset for a character in a game.
Yeah.
Just looks just like you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be nice. All right, well, hopefully no major injuries in our near future. Be careful of that Ethernet cord, Devin. We need to get that thing drilled through the wall. Or we can just leave the 50-foot cord out the window.
I need to do a lot of things. And then I look at all of them and I just go, I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, this is our video game and board game podcast. We do it every single week. This is episode number 12. That means we've almost been doing this for like 3 months, which is a quarter of a year, which is like 90 days or so. It's been 90 busy days, but it's been a lot of fun. I don't know what episode 12 is going to be called yet, but we'll think of some fun title for it. Make sure that you join our giveaway. We do a giveaway every month. This month is June 2024. We're giving away this game. Or a Calcum, sealed in shrink wrap, brand new, Vanna White right here, displaying it for you. It's a very fun board game. If you are out of the country or don't want the game, we will give you a $50 gift card to Amazon, Steam, PlayStation Network, wherever you would like instead. So make sure to join the giveaway. And check us out on Patreon. That's how we survive and continue to do this podcast. We've got a free tier over there where you can just get some extra videos, all kinds of other perks if you want the podcast early, or to join us for a monthly Q&A video that we do every month, or all kinds of good stuff. So make sure to check us out over there. That's patreon.com/supergamebrothers, not Super Gamer Brothers, like we talked about earlier. Last week was kind of an interesting episode, Devin. We tried something new, threw some stuff in the background. While we were talking. I think it was good because there were 6 video game conferences last week, or that we covered last week. And so it would have been a lot of just talking heads. And I do want the audio portion of our show for our audio only listeners to always be like top tier. So I don't think we'll ever like play the audio from the video in the background, but I think we're going to pull some stuff up again today. Let us know in the comments if you like that or if you don't like it. It's helpful for us to have some feedback. But yeah, so we're just kind of experimenting, but if you're on audio, we still love you, and we'll try to keep this top tier for you there as well. A couple more conferences to go through this week, and that'll be fun when we get to it. We're going to start like we usually do with the news Mini-Nuke. In the news Mini-Nuke, we go over kind of the smaller announcements for the week before we talk about the board games and video games we've been playing, and then go into the bigger news segment. All right, for the news Mini-Nuke this week, we got a few different announcements. It's hard to know like which announcements to include here, because if I included every announcement for every board game and every video game, we'd be here all day. But I think this first one's a big deal. Amazon Game Studios makes some video games. I think their biggest one was New World. It came out a couple years ago, and is coming to a console, I think, later this year. They have a new game called Throne and Liberty, and I believe it's a MMO that's also going to be on PC, but it is coming to console on September 17th, and they're having an open beta in mid-July. I think we talked about this last week, Devin, but have you had any experience with an MMO? I think Destiny is probably your closest experience, since that kind of is a first-person shooter MMO.
Doesn't it mean like massive multiplayer?
Yeah, massively multiplayer online, I think. But even like World of Warcraft, which is an MMO, you generally go with like, yeah, there's 100,000 people online playing, and some of them might be in our shared universe, like at the tower, I think it was called in Destiny. But then you usually have your smaller little group that you go out and do the strikes and the raids with. So I think Destiny is, very similar. Maybe the player count's a little lower than like a raid in World of Warcraft that I think is maybe like 12 players instead of 6. But I think it's a pretty similar structure. Is Destiny the only one that you've played in that genre? It is for me.
I mean, as far as games go where you're with a lot of other people in an open world, yeah, I think so. I think Destiny is the one I did, and I put a lot of time into that game and had a blast doing it.
Yeah, that one I think pulled in a lot of people because the Bungie's first-person shooting gameplay is like so strong. Coming off of Halo, they make really good first-person shooting games, and so that I think worked for them. Because I think that's kind of the thing I struggle with, even in Destiny, where the gameplay was still really fun. I even played multiplayer for a little bit. If I'm doing too many repetitive things too often, I struggle to stay like super engaged. But I don't know. We've mentioned this many times on the show that we both really liked Baldur's Gate 2, and so I think there is something to be said here about a game like this that looks a little more like Diablo or something, but also has that MMO feature with big boss raids and stuff. So anyways, if that's your jam, look out for Throne and Liberty coming to console on, I think I said already, September 17th, and they're having an open beta in July. So that was the first one. Next up, this is a board game that Devin and I really like, and I actually played it this last week. We'll get to that later. It's called The Veil of Eternity. Very fun card game about... It has a really unique structure. You're trying to put these cards in front of yourself, and then every turn you get to activate some of them that have an hourglass symbol on them. And so if you can set those up to combo in cool ways, you're also limited by the number of currency stones you can keep. I don't know if this expansion was announced this last week, but this is the first time I saw it. But it's getting an expansion later this year called The Veil of Eternity Artifacts. And it adds a bunch of new cards. I can't remember the number, but I think it said 50 or 60 new cards, which will be great, so there's more variability. And then I think it's adding a new type of currency called artifacts. There's only a couple pictures there up on Board Game Geek, but wanted to give a shout out to that game since the game is really good. I need to review that one on my board game channel.
And you said I played this?
Yeah, just the left side, The Veil of Eternity. It's the one with the cards that it's kind of similar to. You should just click here on Board Game Geek back to Veil of Eternity if you can, and see if you remember what any of those cards look like. But yeah, it's kind of similar to at the top, if you see expansion for Veil of Eternity, click on that text there, Veil of Eternity, right to the right of the, up just a tiny bit, right there. Kind of Pokemon-like cards with like some are dragon types and some are water types and fire types. And you get a
and you can end up spending more money than a card actually costs because you don't get change back.
You don't get change.
Is that this
for
game?
That is that game, yeah. Yep. Very cool game. So yeah, if you like Veil of Eternity, make sure to look out for that expansion sometime this year. I think that's all it said was 2024. All right, next up, Valheim was a pretty big video game. I think last year, maybe? And it is being made into a board game that is coming to GameFound, which is just like Kickstarter, just a different platform, later this year in 2024. I think it said that the runtime or the play time is about 2 hours per session, but there aren't a lot more details other than this cover shot at this point. So if you like Valheim, maybe you want to play a 2-hour board game about Valheim. Then the last one I put in here, this isn't a new game at all, just because this last week there were quite a few previews of this game, and this is a David game, like through and through. I am super excited to play this one. I hope that it's really great. It's called The Plucky Squire. I was going to ask you if you've ever heard of or seen this game before, Devin.
I want to say yes, so that I'm like part of the gaming community and I know what's going on, but no,
that's all right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's coming out this year, but it's kind of a smaller indie game, so it would have had trailers at smaller events. So no fault of yours for not having seen it. But basically, you play as this kind of knight-like character in this very colorful, like hand-drawn storybook kind of looking version of like a Zelda game. But then you can pop out of those storybooks and you're playing in this messy kid's like bedroom, like on top of all of their toys. And then at various different parts, you can hop into different objects that are flat, as if it's a kind of a, like at one part here in the trailer, they show a coffee cup or a mug, and you hop into that mug, and then you play like a little mini game on the flat surface around both sides of the mug. So kind of the shtick of this game is you're hopping back and forth between that colorful 3D messy kids room, kind of reminds me of Toy Story or something, 3D platforming, and then you're
oh my goodness, so creative
segments. Looks so cool, and the art is just amazing. So yeah,
wow.
There were some previews for this game this week. A lot of people are really looking forward to it. It only has 2024 as the expected timeline. They haven't given a firm date yet, but very excited for that game. So just wanted to give it a shout out here while we were on the news Mini-Nuke. Yeah,
I want to give it a download.
I know, I want to play it really bad.
It looks amazing.
Yeah, that art is something else. Looks like a Nintendo game, to be honest. But in like 4K, which is something Nintendo doesn't do yet. Right. Yeah, it looks great. All right, next up, after the game announcements and trailers, we usually talk about the games that are free this week to the various subscription services. And we've talked about most of June's games already. We've already covered the PlayStation games because they talked about them, I think, last week that just joined Extra and Premium. Make sure, still, if you have PlayStation Plus, add SpongeBob, The Cosmic Shake, AEW Fight Forever, and Streets of Rage 4 to your library so that you can download and play those whenever you want. Xbox has announced finally their slate of Game Pass games for the second half of this month of June 2024. So the one that just came out, I think yesterday, it's called Still Wakes the Deep. We've mentioned it a couple times, but it reviewed pretty well, actually. It's kind of a thriller horror game set on a what's it called? An oil rig. I think I have a link for this one too, Devin, if you wanted to pull that one up, but I don't blame you for just being transfixed by the Plucky Squire, because that looks
I was.
But yeah, this one, Still Wakes the Deep, is supposed to be pretty solid as well. And then the 6 new ones outside of that one that we already knew were June 19th, My Time at Sandrock, which is a sequel to, I think, My Time at Portia. And it's kind of like a crafting, building up a community game. But it is 3D. It's not like a Stardew Valley and top-down or anything. That one is coming to console, PC, and cloud. Next up is one called Keplerth. I don't know really anything about this one, but it says it's a 2D sandbox RPG. It's only on PC. Then on the 25th, EA Sports Football Club 24, coming to console, PC, and cloud. And then on the 26th, these are the two, other than Still Wakes the Deep, which I think looks pretty cool. And My Time at Sandrock might be a game for you as well. But my picks of this month for Xbox are definitely the two coming out on the 26th. And they are SteamWorld Dig and SteamWorld Dig 2, which are two awesome indie games from a studio whose name I can't remember at the moment. They basically, all of their games have been in this SteamWorld world that they have created. If you scroll back up to the top, Devin, you should be able to see a little picture at least there on the top left. And so you're digging down through these mines during the day, and then you have to go back and like sell the stuff you mine to get better stuff and go deeper. SteamWorld Dig 2 is a bit bigger and I think a better of a game, but the first one's really good too if you just want a shorter experience. Those are both awesome. And then the last one on the 27th of June, Robin Hood Sherwood Builders on console, PC, and cloud. I don't know much about that game, but it has a picture of Robin Hood. At least his cloak standing there. You can't really see him underneath it, but there's also some other perks with, I think, some DLC for Minecraft and stuff. But those are the games for the second half of June. Next, Nintendo's cloud service is getting some new games. We'll talk about those in Nintendo's showcase portion of the show, though. So, whoops, tipping over stuff. So we won't talk about those right now. For the Epic Game Store, they have one game and then kind of a credit pack. The game is called Freshly Frosted. Looks like a David game. It's a puzzle game about rearranging donuts and other delicious treats. And I think you move like conveyor belts around or something to puzzle out how they should go in these boxes, I believe. Looks fun. Make sure to add it to your library. It's completely free if you have an Epic Game Store account. And then if you play a game called Rumble Club, I don't know what that is, but the other free item on the Epic Store this week is some credits for Rumble Club. So, all right, that's all the free to subscriptions games this week. So what games are coming out this week? I already mentioned Still Wakes the Deep. So we'll talk about that one in a second, actually. The first big one is not out right now, but since it's such a big deal, all of the reviews basically are out already. So we're going to talk about it now anyways. Elden Ring's expansion, Shadow of the Erd Tree, is going to be humongous. I think it comes out on Thursday night at, I think for us, it might be 10 o'clock p.m. It's either that or midnight. I can't remember. But yeah, the huge expansion, currently sitting at a mighty 94 on OpenCritic. It has the highest score of any DLC expansion ever. Yeah, it everyone loves it, basically. So
I think they said the only DLC that was even close to this was maybe from The Witcher 3 beforehand,
probably.
that had a really high rating.
Yeah,
and
Blood
this beat
and Wine
it
or something. But yeah. Yep, it's supposed to be amazing. I think Devin is streaming it maybe that whole morning or something.
Oh man, we're gonna yes.
Going long and yeah, not gonna be too crass. He's gonna play it the whole day.
What is Eurogamer rating this? What is their problem? 60%?
Oh, interesting. Yeah. There's always a few outliers for sure.
Very weird.
As a stats man, I trust the mean. I trust the average, generally.
Yes.
But yeah, 94 on OpenCritic. That's pretty incredible. The two games that did come out this last week that are kind of bigger releases that I thought were worth bringing up are Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. I have not played one of these, but I know they are a big deal if you like Japanese role-playing games. This one's reviewed very well. It's actually gone up a point since I've made the document, so it's got a mighty 89 here on OpenCritic as well. So if you like JRPGs, games like Persona, I think this is one that people have really liked. Probably very long.
Yeah, really cool character design in this.
Yeah, they kind of are leaning into like the kind of similar to Persona in my opinion, like Jokers and like court jester kind of vibes.
Yeah, it almost looks like face cards.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And then the other one was Still Wakes the Deep, the game I already mentioned. That is free on Game Pass. It has a strong 76 on OpenCritic, and it is available on PlayStation and PC as well. And yeah, it's I think a walking simulator, but like a thriller horror game on this oil rig. It's supposed to be pretty solid, and the graphics look pretty good from this.
Yeah, it looks nice.
Video here. So if you like that kind of game, which I do sometimes, I'm a little picky with them, but a good one can kind of pull you in. Those were the 3 games I thought were worth bringing up this week. There are also quite a few new board games this month. The board game world is kind of crazy right now. It's summer, so a lot of the big conventions are going on. I think the Origins convention I think that one's in America, is one of the biggest ones in the world. It's going on this week, and then you've got there's the one in Germany coming up, I think, in a month or two. So many conventions and things are just like announced. Boom, 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 boom. That isn't like a coherent way to say that sentence, but they're boom, 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 boom announced. So I wrote down 6 games that I think look notable to me that should be releasing this month according to the internet. First one is called, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but Agueda, City of Umbrellas. And it's a pretty light, simple game. It's got a 1.5 on the complexity scale on Board Game Geek. It plays 1 to 5 players, 20 to 40 minutes, and it's a worker placement game where I think each player has their own set of these cool umbrellas, and you'll be placing them out on cards and on different spots on the board, I believe. It looks very pretty. I can't decide if I like the wooden pieces or those plastic ones better. I generally like the feel of wooden pieces better, but sometimes, with plastic, they're able to be a little more elaborate with the sculpt design. So yeah, looks really cool. I think that if you like lighter family weight games, that one seems like it's getting a little bit of buzz. Next up is one that's definitely getting a lot of buzz, and it's called Captain Flip. Another pretty simple family weight game. It's a 1.15 on the complexity scale, so very simple game to play. Plays in 20 minutes for 2 to 5 players from publisher Play Punk. I should know Agueda earlier was from 25th Century Games. But back to Captain Flip, it's a tile placement game where, from what I read, you take a tile out of the bag, and then you can either place that pirate tile on your ship, or you can risk looking at the other side to see if the other side is better. But once you flip and look at the other side, then you're forced to take whatever that side was, even if it's worse than the side you first looked at. That's kind of an interesting push your luck mechanic. I like push your luck in games. Usually, I think it's a good feeling as long as you're not punished too bad. So that's a pretty fun looking family weight game. We'll talk more about Captain Flip in a little bit, actually. Okay, and then after that, we've got Evenfall. This is one of the bigger, more complex games of the month. I think this one came out a while ago, maybe to Kickstarter backers or something, but it's from DLP Games, plays in 1 to 2 hours for 1 to 4 players. It's an engine building card game with this really cool art. That tree kind of looks like the Erd tree, to be honest, from Elden Ring. But yeah, very cool fantasy art. It's about a 3 on the complexity scale on Board Game Geek, so it's getting up there in complexity, but I think the components look really awesome. You have your own little player board that you put cards next to, and I like engine building card games like Earth, so I imagine this would be one that I would enjoy playing as well. Next up is the most complex game from the list, today, and that is called Ezra and Nehemiah. And this is from Garfield Games. They make a lot of games nowadays. They almost have a game every year, maybe 2 a year. I don't know. They really crank them out over there. I have one of their games. I have, what's it called? Architects of the West Kingdom, which is a really awesome game. And they kind of have a cult following, or a cult audience that loves, I wouldn't even say cult. They have a pretty big audience that loves their games and just tries all of them. They make their games kind of in sets of 3. So they had 3 games in the West Kingdom, 3 games, Raiders in the North Sea trilogy before that. So the one I have, Architects of the West Kingdom. Then they have I can't remember the second one was. Then the third one is Paladins of the West Kingdom. I think this one is technically outside of their trilogy lines, but pretty complex game about, I think, building up Jerusalem, kind of a old time biblical theme a little bit. But yeah, if you like pretty complicated games that have good pieces, look nice on the table, they usually use the same kind of artist too. And if you like that artist, it should be another one that you like. I think that one's almost a 4 on Board Game Geek's complexity weight scale, 3.8,
which is really high, isn't it? What would you say your average game is?
My average would be pulled down a lot because I have a lot of lighter games, but as far as the games that I really like, I'm usually floating around a 3. So we played Revive recently, Devin, and I think that one is about a 3.1 or something like that. Where it's got enough meat on its bones that you like. It's tough. You got some hard decisions to make. This one's even a bit more complex than that. Next up looks like a very simple dice rolling game called Mutton Bustin', from, again, 25th Century Games, for 2 to 4 players, 15 to 25 minutes. And I don't know a lot about it, but the artwork looks funny. It has these cool sheep meeples, and basically you're rolling dice to try to win the game. I don't know much else about it, to be honest, but fun little game it looks like. And I appreciate it comes in a very small box. That's a kind of a big deal to me lately. So there's that one. And then the last one, I don't know how to pronounce, but I thought it looked pretty cool. It has really pretty cards, if I'm remembering correctly. It's called Tirnanog, maybe?
Tirnanog.
This Norse mythology theme, maybe? Can't even tell what, but the artwork is really cool. 30 to 45 minutes, 1 to 5 players from Grand Gamers Guild. And it's a card drafting game where you'll put down your worker in between a couple of cards, I think, to kind of claim your spot there. It's a 2.25 on the complexity scale, and I think kind of the pull here is it has some really, really pretty art. So hopefully the gameplay can match too. I'm excited to look up some more about it. I think it was a Kickstarter game, so it's probably delivering to or already has last month delivered to backers. Anyways, lots of cool games. Which of those 6, Devin, do you think looks... It's hard to judge a book by its cover, but judging these 6 games by their covers, which one do you think looks the most like a Devin game?
This one seems cool to me.
Tirnanog? Yeah, I agree.
I mean, that Erd Tree looking one was kind of cool. I mean, yeah, both of those... I'm judging them based on their art. Like hardcore.
Okay. No, I kind of am as well. Some like Evenfall, I've watched a couple reviews for, and so I know a little bit more about that one. But Evenfall and Tirnanog both seem like they're somewhat similar in that they're card games with very pretty art on the cards, and you're trying to build up, kind of a tableau of cards in front of you. So, yeah, I think both of those were the 2 that I was most excited by from this list as well. Ezra and Nehemiah looks really cool, but I don't know. It's hard for me to get a game that is complexity level almost 4 to the table. Alrighty, now we're at what we have been playing, and lots of stuff here, to be honest. I'll start really quick with just a couple of video games, since I've only played a couple this week, and then I know Devin has quite a few, and then I've got quite a few board games, so we'll just kind of go back and forth that way. this week I played 2 video games. The first one was I played. Well, I guess I should explain a little bit. My brother-in-law brought his Nintendo 64 up to Bear Lake.
Wow.
He has an original one with, I think he had 5 or 6 controllers, and he brought a few games. We were only able to play one game just due to time, but he brought GoldenEye, which is super awesome. He also brought Excite Bike 64, which I've only played a couple times, but I know is a very nostalgic game for my wife and for my brother-in-law. But the one that we played was Super Smash Bros., the original on Nintendo 64 that I think only has 10 or 12 characters. So it's kind of, I've played quite a bit of Brawl and Melee and what's the newest one? Ultimate. So going backwards, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna play as Diddy Kong, and I'm like, oh yeah, wait, he's not in this game. So there's a little bit of that trying to decide who to play as, and you forget how pixelated the graphics were when you are playing a game like that for the first time in a decade. But yeah, super nostalgic game. It was a lot of fun. I remember playing that game with my friend Patrick at his house, and we would play like the campaign mode where you have to beat up the enemy characters and then defeat the master hand, whatever, at the end of the game. We would stay up playing that like super late into the night, and before we started, we would always go to this little gas station down the street and get a bag of penny candy, so we'd have 100 pieces of candy to eat while we were playing. So yeah, just kind of reinvigorated those nostalgic memories. I played as Luigi and got destroyed. I was like, man, I don't remember who I played as back then. And then I played as Pikachu and did really well. I won a few matches as Pikachu. Fun game, just fun to smash each other off of the screen. I'm not especially good. I don't use like the defensive bubble enough. I try to, and then I forget to do like the grapples and the holds, and yeah, you can get really deep down that rabbit hole, but it's fun to play at kind of like a intermediate level, in my opinion. So played some Smash Bros, kicked some butt as Pikachu. The other game I played is a little puzzle game called Golf Peaks. It's on iOS and Steam. It might be elsewhere. Might even be on Apple Arcade, I can't remember. But it is a puzzle game where you have to play cards to move a golf ball with the goal of getting the ball in the hole. And yeah, very simple, kind of minimalist puzzle game, but it's very fun. I bought this trio, or like a bundle on Steam that has 3 games from the same company that made Golf Peaks. And so I'm going to play this one first, then there's one about sushi, and then their most recent one is about trains. And so I'm going to play them in that order. I think I mentioned this bundle maybe last week, but Golf Peaks is a lot of fun if you want a minimalist puzzle game that you can play on your phone. I've been playing it on my Ally, and you can play it on the Ally with the same touch controls that you would have on your phone anyways. Or you can use the joystick and buttons if you want to. But Golf Peaks, it's a good time. Not like the greatest puzzle game ever, but for just something you want to blast through a few levels on at night in bed, it's pretty great. So that's all the video games I was able to play this week, though. Smash Brothers and Puzzle Golf for me.
Yeah, I feel like you play, I would say, more board games than you do video games.
Yeah,
you feel like that's happening?
I feel like I ebb and flow a lot for sure. I'll have some times where I'm not able to play like any board games and I'm like heavy video game, and then it kind of flops the other direction. So this is definitely one of those weeks where I've got more board games for sure.
Well, I have no board games, but I'll go over the video games I've been playing. I think we covered this last week. We did finish Cyberpunk's 2077. Game was beautiful. It was polished, didn't run into many issues. Most people know what it is, and most people have played it. But we got a very generic, according to chat, stupid ending of the game, where I ended up on a spaceship. I was laying in bed. They were like testing my heart rate, making me walk on a treadmill. I don't know. Everyone's like, why'd you choose this ending? Why would you do this? I'm like, I just play the game. I don't know. But I'm glad we moved on from it. The game was amazing, but also very dirty. So I didn't love the game for that reason.
Yeah, a little
Never heard
intense,
so many
like,
F-bombs in 10 minutes of my life, I don't think.
yeah, it's kind of like futuristic Pulp Fiction, the video game for sure. It's just how hardcore can we be the entire time you're playing?
Yes, it was hardcore. Also dabbled back in for one day into Hogwarts Legacy. A lot of people asked me to do so. The only reason it has any replayability at all is because there's 4 houses at Hogwarts: Slytherin, Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff, and Gryffindor. And we initially did Hufflepuff because I said I liked loyalty, and so they put me as a badger in Hufflepuff. This time we tried Slytherin, so you could see like their, what do they call it, a common room?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we got to see their common room. But in order to get the platinum trophy on that game and to see all the houses, you've got to go through like a 30-minute tutorial 4 times.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of weird. There should be a skip tutorial option, jump right to picking a class once I've played through the game once. I don't know, fun game, fun combat, beautiful music, very nostalgic world. Cool game overall.
Do you think they'll that game has sold so well? Do you think that they'll have a big like expansion for that game? I have to think they're going to.
Well, they just released an expansion. I'm not going to call it a DLC, and it was like 2 brooms and a new black
like their
bird
summer update or something.
And I think they added a photo mode, which I don't know. I guess if you're hardcore Harry Potter fan, maybe that'd be fun to really go to like a super cool area. Make sure it's the right time of day. It's like sunrise and you're on a bird and you're casting a spell at a troll or something and you snap a photo. Like that could be cool.
Yeah. There's been quite a few rumors and not even rumors, leaks this week about Hogwarts Legacy. It's kind of a long-winded story to get there, so I'll try to be fast. But Rocksteady, who made the Batman Arkham games and just recently made, what's that game called? Kill the Justice League, I think was what it was called.
Okay.
That game performed very poorly, at least sales-wise. Both Rocksteady and this Harry Potter license are owned by Warner Brothers. And so since they lost like $200 million on this Kill the Justice League game, a few reporters have reported that their sources have told them that Rocksteady has now been assigned to work on the definitive edition of Hogwarts Legacy that will be coming out later. And just because of that news dropping, I was like, wow, definitive edition, that would make it seem like there would be some, game of the year, like bundle all the DLC together thing that they would need to do. But I don't think it's had any big expansion packs other than small updates, like you mentioned, with more brooms or something. So anyways, that's why I asked. I'm just a little curious. If they had a big expansion, what would it even be? It doesn't seem like it'll be Quidditch, since they've got the fully separate Quidditch game. They already have, what's that market called? My Harry Potter knowledge is Hogsmeade's already in the game. So I guess I'm not sure. Maybe it would be you visit a different school or something. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, that could be interesting. Yeah, I don't know what they'll do with that game. No idea.
Yeah.
Well, moving on. Third game I played, Halo. We bought a $10 bundle on Steam. It came with Halo Reach, Halo 1 CE, whatever that stands for.
Combat Evolved.
Combat Evolved. That's why you were saying that so much. Okay. And then Halo 2 CE, Halo 3, Halo 3 ODST, Halo 4. 7 Halos? I don't know. I was counting them on my fingers. We got through Halo Reach. Super good. I think it's the newest of the games, maybe, or close to it. Felt pretty good. Pretty cool game. Definitely unique mechanics. I had a jetpack at one point. Really, really weird things that my Spartan type suit could do. That was cool. And then we played 1 yesterday. Amazing game as far as nostalgia, but if I shut off all nostalgia and sentimental feelings towards that game, if that game came out today, I'd be like, that was kind of garbage. Not to hate on Halo. Like, Halo's a beautiful thing. But there were some times where I was just like, are the enemies ever going to stop coming? I've been walking through this room that looks the same around every corner for 40 minutes. Just shooting bullets the whole time. I thought I was playing Doom. I really did.
Yeah.
It was just...
Yeah, that's hard. That one is very much like the moment in time that it came out. It was like, wow, what a godsend. Like, the biggest innovation in first-person shooting ever. But yeah, we've just grown a lot since then. I think it came out in like 2001. And so, yeah, we're kind of away from monster closets. We have objective markers now, and I know it's very easy to get lost in that first game that doesn't have those kind of quality of life things that we have today. So I totally get it from that angle. But watching you run around on that beach on Secret Cartographer, like, oh yeah, this is that good stuff.
This is that good stuff. Yeah, it did have good stuff. It had an update in graphics. You can push tab and actually just switch between the graphics. I'm sure you saw that. Yes. Very interesting to go back and forth. There's definitely huge quality of life updates in the graphics as far as luminance and lighting. Mm-hmm. Make some of the areas much easier to traverse. But love the game for what it is. Beautiful games. We're on the second one right now, which introduced dual wielding, which feels really cheap, to be honest.
Yeah,
you can put double the amount of bullets.
Mm-hmm. I think another thing that hurts kind of... I have the same bundle on Steam, and I've been thinking about playing them as well, but I feel like I am nervous it's going to hurt like my wonderful nostalgic love for Halo. I think a lot of what helped like propel Halo was beyond just the kind of the upgrade that was in first person shooting, that nobody had ever made a game that played that smooth like that, at least on a console. The multiplayer suite was so important to those. Like, yeah, you'd play a mission or two of the campaign and like have a good time seeing the flood for the first time and throwing the blue sticky grenades on some grunts and watching them run and scream. But then you'd go to Blood Gulch and have like the best time, with your friends. And I feel like I think that multiplayer might still be in the Master Chief Collection. But yeah, I think that definitely helped back then when, you're waiting 2 years for Halo 2 to come out, but you're playing so much multiplayer of it and just having a blast that, yeah, it made it seem probably longer and more fulfilling than just like sprinting through the campaigns would feel like today. I totally agree with that.
I agree. I think multiplayer is what I remember the most from them, actually. And trying to learn how to get better. The movement in Halo is so unique that you can't really dodge, roll away from things. You're pretty limited as far as strafe speed. And you can get caught in the air jumping, and then you're slowly falling, just getting shot by...
Right.
So you got to be really strategic with grenade distance. The grenades throw a very straight baseball arc. You can launch grenades in that game.
Yeah.
Like 200 yards. It's ridiculous. And so really, really unique mechanics. I would say you are correct as far as multiplayer goes. That's something I had kind of forgotten about. Yeah. Because I didn't love it in Infinite. Like, it was fine. Honestly, it was kind of fun in Infinite, to be honest. But I wasn't like, oh my gosh, I need to just prestige this character and go.
Yeah. You're on to Halo 2 now, right?
Yes.
That one's probably my favorite. But yeah, the dual wielding, it is crazy. Well, you got a shotgun in one arm or a pistol in the other. Actually, I don't think you can duel with the shotgun, but yeah, you can do some crazy combinations of guns in that one. And just the story with the Arbiter and the Prophets and stuff. I think 2 is really cool.
Yeah, the Arbiter's cool. I agree. Yeah, that's been fun. Super nostalgic games. The last thing we played, we just dabbled a little bit in today, was Golf with Your Friends. $5 game on Steam. I think you can play with up to 12 people. And it's just funny. Very difficult, very, not defeating, but just a brutal mini golf game that you can't ever really see the flag and you're just kind of guessing what you need to do, how much distance to put behind the ball. And Um, that game's pretty fun. Honestly, it was a good time. We just got on Discord and talked with friends, and you all get a hit at the same time, so you're not taking turns to see who can finish a hole with the least strokes, that type of thing.
Yeah, it looked fun watching you guys play and laugh. Seemed like a good time. The one thing I was surprised by, I'm surprised there isn't a button that you can press to do like a sky camera or something, like an overhead view, or like when you transition to a new hole. I'm surprised it doesn't take 10 seconds to just like show you the hole from like some zoomed out level, so you at least have a reference point of like, okay, there's a loop-de-loop here, and the hole
like Mario Kart.
Yeah, exactly. I was surprised it didn't have that, because that seemed to be the difficult part. Like, you could only see from your ball, and you're like, yeah, it looks like I need to go over this hill, but then you shoot over the hill and it's a cliff, and you're like, well, I would have no way of knowing that.
Yeah, there was an overlay on the screen that said hold C for free cam, and I kept trying to do it and nothing would happen.
Oh, interesting.
And so there might be something in place there, but I'm unsure.
Yeah.
But other than that, I've been gaming.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That was a lot of games.
Yeah, I mean, you finished Cyberpunk, one of the biggest RPGs like ever made. Played some Hogwarts Legacy. Finished like, what's that? 2 Halo campaigns and started a 3rd one. I think that's a pretty solid week. Cool. All right, on to board games. I've got quite a few here. I'll try to be kind of quick since I've talked about most of these before. Most of my gaming this last week was on the vacation to Bear Lake. And a situation like that is one where, I'm going to be with a lot of family members. And so I need games that can play a bigger group. And generally, it's not the kind of space where I want to take something like Root. It's going to be 3 hours. And not everybody wants to play something that complex. So it's generally simpler games that play in a shorter time frame that can play a lot of people. There were 2 games that I didn't bring that my sister-in-law and her husband brought. They brought Nerds. If you've ever played that, it's basically a card game, kind of similar to like, I don't know, solitaire with a little bit of speed element. So each player has a deck of cards, and next to your deck of cards, you have 4 spots that you can build like solitaire columns in. And on your columns, you're playing basically regular solitaire. You have to put a red card, then a black card, then a red card in descending order from like 8 to 7 to 6, like solitaire. Then between all of the players who are doing that separately in this middle area, as soon as somebody has an ace, they can play it out to the center area. And then you play up. Yeah, what's the word? Not descending like in your own area. You play ascending. So from ace 2, 3, 4 up. And in the middle, you're playing not red, black, red, black. You have to match the suit. So if the ace of diamonds is out, then I could play my 2 of diamonds on top of it. And you get points based on how many of your cards in your own area you can get into the middle area. So you're trying to do that as fast as you can, and everybody's doing it at the same time. So it's kind of madness. And then you lose points based on how many cards in your Nerds deck in your own area you were not able to clear out. So it's kind of a fun, kind of speed solitaire variant. I'm generally not a fan of speed related games like that. I think they heavily favor whoever has played them the most. And just certain types of people are really good at like seeing every card in their peripheral vision really quickly. And some people just kind of aren't really, they don't want to play a game at that kind of speed level. But it was a good time. We played 3 or 4 rounds, and it was pretty fun to just slap cards down everywhere as fast as you can. The other game that they brought was called Lord of the Rings: The Adventure Book game. And this is a co-op game where each player has a few cards in their hand, and then you work together to try and defeat the scenario. And the game comes with this book that folds open, and then each scenario takes place on the pages. And then once you finish that one, you flip the page to the next one, and you'll play on that page. And I think there's like 15 maybe scenarios in the book, and it just follows kind of the Lord of the Rings story. So the first scenario was you had to get, let's see, you had to get Gandalf and Frodo and Sam to Bag End so that you could hide the ring. Then you had to avoid the Black Riders and get everybody to, what was it? To, to Bree without being hit by the Black Riders. And then you have to get all of the characters to Weathertop, and you pick up Aragorn along the way and stuff. So it's a pretty simple game. It's kind of a movement puzzle where you're trading cards back and forth with your the people you're playing with, and trying to make sure you complete every mission that you have to on the page without triggering the lose condition. And in that first scenario, the lose condition was to be seen too many times by the Black Riders. We then played the second scenario, which was very interesting. It was the Council of Elrond, and so you had to control all of the Legolas and Gimli and Boromir and Aragorn to try and get everyone to the places on their board or on the board where they would remove their pride token before Elrond moved all the way down the track. So it was kind of establishing the peace at that council. And that one was a bit trickier of a puzzle. But there weren't any villain characters on it. It was a little interesting to just move Legolas and stuff around. But the third one would have been Moria, and you have to with Gandalf defeat the Balrog, and with the other characters fight off orcs and stuff. So we didn't get to play that one though. So we played that game for a couple hours. It was a fun time. Probably not a game for that I would buy, but I'd happily play it. I'm not a huge fan of co-op games, but it was light enough and fast enough. I think we played a scenario in 30 minutes on average. That it was a fun time. So if you like Lord of the Rings and like board games where there's no competition, since you're all working together, and like games that aren't uber complicated, then that might be a game for you. Lord of the Rings, the adventure book game. Then there were a few games that I took that we played. A few of them I've showed on the screen before, so I'll be really quick. First one is No Thanks, a very simple card game with cards that look like Uno cards. This is a much better game than something like Uno or Phase 10, though, about bluffing and deciding when to take a card and when not to take a card. The thing I like about it, it plays in 10 minutes, and you can play up to 7 people. So really great game. I think you can get it for $10 on Amazon. So great game. No Thanks. We then played My Gold Mine, another great game. It's a little more expensive, but it's a push your luck game where you all play as a dwarf in this mine, trying to get as much gold as you can before the dragon kind of burns the whole mine down. I like push your luck, especially in lighter, shorter games, since this one takes 20-25 minutes and it's 3 rounds. Each round only lasts 7 minutes, so even if you get killed by the dragon in the first round, you're not waiting very long to continue playing. Very cool game. A little hard to find. I had to import it from Europe, but it is a very cool game. Cool components with these nice kind of plastic gold pieces. I love a good where's the side magnet clasp on the side of the box to keep it closed and together. That one's a good one. Speaking of magnet clasps, the next game we played was Long Shot the Dice Game. Very fun horse racing game that plays up to 8 people. This one was the most complicated of the games we played there, but it's not. There's just a few actions you have to explain. So while I was teaching it, I was like, I think I'm losing my mother-in-law a little bit. But after we started playing, you roll a dice each turn. Actually, it's a couple dice each turn that will move the horses along this horse race. And then you're betting on horses, buying concessions, buying jerseys and stuff for different horses. And it's a really fun time. Everyone was super into it after I was able to finish teaching it. Very fun game. I prefer this to Camel Up, which is a very popular kind of similar-ish racing game. This one's shorter, fits in a smaller box. Again, magnet clasp. It's a great game. Long Shot the Dice Game. And then the last one we played, it kind of got interrupted, and so we didn't fully finish, but we played a couple rounds of a trivia game that I, again, have shown before. It's called Half Truth. It's a trivia game where you don't have to be good at trivia to have a good time or even win. You just have to decide when you want to kind of double and triple down if you really think you know the answers on the cards, and when to play it safe. Fun game, especially because trivia is a genre where whoever plays the most trivia games or just kind of has the most trivia knowledge will generally just destroy everyone. But this one is so unique in that most of the cards are very difficult to know which of the 6 answers are true and which are false. And so it's more about positioning and deciding, okay, this time I'm only going to guess 1. But then this next card, I do know this one, so I'm going to guess 2, or if you really know it, to guess 3. It's a fun trivia game. There's over 500 cards in the game. I've played this game probably 5 or 6 times, and we've only used, I think, half of the first deck of cards, and they're 100 cards each. So we've only used 10% of the cards so far. So really cool game if you like things that are trivia adjacent. I think Half Truth is a winner. It has these really cool poker chips that come in the game too, so it's fun to play. I think everyone I've played it with has really liked it. You can play 6 players, but we usually play it in teams of like 2. So we played it with like 4, or actually a couple weeks ago we played it with 6 couples. So we played 12 people. You just kind of talk with your teammate before you make your guesses. Very fun game. And I think that, I've got one more to talk about. You were right, Devin. Lots of board games. Holy cow. If you want to check any of those games out, check the description of this video. If you get them through those links, it doesn't cost you any more, but it does help support our show by giving us a tiny kickback from Amazon. So last one, just going to do a little plug here to Patreon. One of our Patreon perks is that you can be at the monthly Q&A level, which gives you our show 3 days early, gives you all of our exclusive episodes, our advanced episodes that we do once a week, also gives you access to ask questions to this show, and then we do a monthly, like, big, longer Q&A. Another perk at that level is you can play board games with us on Board Game Arena. So a video on Patreon I did this last week was kind of an explanation and a tutorial of how to use and what Board Game Arena is. And I think probably the first 10 to 15 minutes of that video was me just explaining what Board Game Arena is and how it works. Then, after that was done, I just decided to play 2 games on Board Game Arena. So if you want to see the last hour and 20 minutes of that video, that's what I did there. The 2 games I played were Welcome to Your Perfect Home, one of the most famous and well-loved roll and write, flip and write games. It's really great. It's one of my wife's very favorite games. And then the other one was the game we talked about earlier that's getting a new expansion called Artifacts, The Veil of Eternity. So you can play that game fully on Board Game Arena. It's a really good implementation. And anytime I play on there, I realize how much better at games people are than me. It's a little hard because you'll come across people that have played the game 100 times, that are just going to crush you, but it's a fun time anyways. You can set the Board Game Arena you could just play it solo, or you can, and it tries to match you with people around you have a ELO score for each game you play. So it tries to match with people around your score. You can even set it to only match you with people that are your friends instead of random. So you got tons of options there. And I think they have over 900 games on that platform. Very awesome platform. You can play totally for free. So check out that video on Patreon. Really recommend Board Game Arena. And those 2 games, Welcome to and The Veil of Eternity, are awesome. I own them both physically, but they are also awesome on Board Game Arena. Woo! That was a lot of games. Those are all the games I played this last week, and I do have my weekly board game night tomorrow with kind of the guys in my neighborhood where we play bigger, more complex games usually, so I'll have one of those at least to talk about next week as well. All right, that was what we have been playing. So next up, we've got the news segment of the show, and last week we talked about 6 video game conferences. This week we're going to cover 2, one of them being a very small conference, and then the other one being kind of the last big one of this summer season. So the first one was the showcase from Yacht Club Games. They made Shovel Knight like a decade ago, and Shovel Knight was a big hit, one of the very first like video games that was funded on Kickstarter. It sold tons of copies. It's an awesome game. If you haven't played Shovel Knight, definitely play Shovel Knight. Yeah, they're showing here on the screen. It was on PlayStation, 3DS, Wii U. It's been on like everything. I think it's probably on iOS and Android even. Yeah, it's awesome. Shovel Knight rules. It's kind of a mixture of Super Mario 3, Mega Man, and Castlevania. I think were the inspirations they had for that game. And so
I need to play this.
It's really good. And there's just similar to Mega Man. There's like 8, maybe 10, but like 8 different bosses that you have to fight on the different levels that kind of end the level like a Mega Man level. It's a really good game. Anyways, in this presentation, they showed a few things. The first one that Devin was just on is Shovel Knight Dig, which is a game that they made just a couple years ago. I think it's getting its final free DLC pack called Wicked Wishes. Yeah, I think in that segment, Devin. And it's coming soon. This game has not been on console yet. It's just been on PC and iOS or mobile. And it's coming to console soon as well. So this will be the last free DLC pack. I want to play this game. I don't like playing games on mobile, so I've just kind of been waiting. I should probably get this game for my Rogue Ally, because that would be a perfect place to play it. But it's a roguelite game where you're generally digging down and then fighting enemies while you're digging and getting new abilities and stuff. But really cool art. It's just a different kind of take on Shovel Knight. Plays very differently than original Shovel Knight. But that was the first thing they showed. The next one was the last, or I don't know if it's last, the next DLC pack, again, free DLC for their other Shovel Knight inspired game called Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon. I do have Pocket Dungeon on the PlayStation. It's a pretty fun puzzle game. I feel like it's kind of real time in that if you take too long, like the pieces keep falling down like Tetris, but you can turn that setting off so that they don't move until you move. And I think I like it better that way, so you have more time to think. Anyways, but it's kind of that kind of vibe, like Tetris. What's that other one? Dr. Robotnik's Mean Green Bean Machine? I don't remember. There was that Sonic game kind of with a similar vibe. But it's getting a new DLC pack as well called Paradox. What's it called here? The Paradox Pack, I think. Yeah, so they showed those 2 things. Their next game, they kickstarted in 2022. I backed it, so as soon as it comes out, I will get a copy, which will be awesome. It's been a little delayed. They haven't, I think it was supposed to be out maybe early this year or something. And they basically say that they're still working on it and it's coming soon. They did show a new Mina the Hollower trailer here. So Devin, you should scrub through that trailer. I think this game looks awesome. Hollow Knight is kind of meant to be like a NES game in style, and this one, Mina the Hollower, is meant to be a Game Boy Color game in style. But if you took a Game Boy Color game and then added like gameplay elements and quality of life features from today. So I think there's like a little bit of Souls-like combat and blocking and like rolling, and you can dig down through the ground as kind of part of your dodge, and you get all these different weapons and stuff. I'm very excited for this game, just given their pedigree at making awesome things. So hopefully, I don't know if it's going to come out this year, obviously, because they didn't say, but I hope that they can hit this year. That would be really cool. Very excited for Mina the Hollower. Then the last thing that they showed was a remake of Shovel Knight, which I don't really know that it needs it, but it does have some cool features. This is called Shovel Knight Shovel of Hope DX. Also just says coming soon. And some of the new things it has are rewind and save states, local and online multiplayer, ghost battle arena. You can customize the knight by changing like his armor and color set. 3D stereoscopic body swap bonus challenges and built-in cheats. So basically just a deluxe version of Hollow Knight. Well, Hollow Knight already exists, so just play the regular version if you haven't yet. It's super great. Hollow Knight's really cool. They made the original game, and like I mentioned, there are like 8 bosses. Like Spectre Knight is one, and I can't remember all their names. King Knight, there's a lot of them. But then they released DLCs where you could play the game as those other bosses. And so there's like Hollow Knight, what am I saying? Shovel Knight.
I was going to ask if you were saying the right thing.
Did I say Hollow Knight a few times?
Yeah.
I meant Shovel Knight all the times I was saying that, so sorry, everybody. But you can play the entire game again as like Spectre Knight, and it plays a lot differently because that character moves differently and throws like poison vials instead of hitting with a shovel. And then they have, I think there's 2 other characters that you can play the campaign with as well. And I think the campaign changes because you're playing with a different character. So Shovel Knight just has a lot of stuff. Even if you just get Shovel Knight or Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, which is kind of the existing sets right now. So you don't have to play the new DX version, or you don't have to wait for it to play an awesome Shovel Knight experience. But anyways, that was all from that presentation. I just wanted to give it a shout out because Shovel Knight rules. Shovel Knight's music rules. Shovel Knight's gameplay rules. And I hope Mina the Hollower will also rule when it comes out.
You know what's shocking? I've kept saying I need a game or a superhero needs to use a shovel. That needs to be his weapon of choice, and I have never dabbled in this game ever.
Yeah, this is it. You tried to build Shovel Knight in Liza P, and here he was the whole time. That was fun to watch you play Liza P with that tiny shovel, though. All right, that's it for the Yacht Club Presents showcase. Next up, this was the last big showcase of this summer period before we get, I think, to August when there's Gamescom. And this was Nintendo's Nintendo Direct. They, a few months ago, came out and said that they were going to announce some new games at this Direct, and that they would be games coming to Switch. But there would be no mention of Switch 2 or Super Switch or whatever they're calling it. But we do know that is coming out next year sometime. Lots of cool stuff in this Nintendo Direct as like a spoiler. First up, they showed the newest Mario and Luigi game, which is a series I know a lot of people love. I think it was on the DS and the 3DS. This one is called Mario and Luigi Brothership. It'll be out on Switch on November 7th. And it's kind of a turn-based RPG, but it has this like platforming action sections and like a funny story as well. Kind of reminds me of Paper Mario in its combat, in that it is a little turn-based. You have to like choose which actions you're going to do, but then like button prompts come up, and if you hit them at the right time, you'll get like double attack power, and if you hit A right when you land on the character, it'll do more, and you get to do these cool like Mario and Luigi super moves together. I really like the art style too. It's like there's this art style in video games called cell shaded. It kind of, I don't know how to explain cell shading, but cell shading was used a lot more in the past. But this game isn't exactly cell shaded, but it kind of has a similar look. There's kind of this like glossy, like shiny paint vibe to all of the art, and I think it looks really cool. Anyways, they opened with that, which I think was a big deal for everyone. Looks really cool. November 7th, just saying again. Next up was a new game called Nintendo World Championships NES Edition. It's out on July 18th of this year. And it's just a bunch of like mini games, I believe. In the past, Nintendo had these actual tournaments called, I believe they were called the same thing, like the Nintendo World Championships. And they would make like difficult segments from like Mario or from Donkey Kong Country in these like very unique cartridges, and then at those championships, all the players would compete to see who could beat those segments in like the shortest amount of time. And you can actually still buy some of those cartridges, like the Nintendo World Championships edition of Donkey Kong Country, like exists. I have a virtual version of it, like on my Super Nintendo emulator and stuff. And so this is just kind of like an official version of that. It has all these games and different modes where you can start with, I think, 12 different people to see who can get the farthest, and then every like minute, a few of them are kicked out. It looks kind of fun if you like that kind of old school style gameplay, hopping around these older games. Even has this cool deluxe version with this gold looking NES cartridge. Next up was a game I hadn't heard of called Fairy Tale 2. Comes out this winter. Nintendo showed a lot of these. I mean, Nintendo's a Japanese company, so it makes sense. But they have a lot of partnerships with companies that make Japanese role-playing games. This one's from Koei Tecmo. And yeah, it's called Fairy Tale 2, coming out this winter. And kind of has, I don't even know, more colorful Final Fantasy vibes to me. I'm very picky with the kinds of games in this genre that I play. I've Final Fantasy 16 I played recently and really liked. I really like Ni no Kuni, but that's more of like a slightly different slant in my opinion. So yeah. Anyways, Fairy Tale 2. If you are interested in that, it's gonna be out this winter. Next up was another one, kind of in a similar vein, called Fantasian Neo Dimension. It was made by the creator of the Final Fantasy series. I think he's the director. And again, it looks like a Japanese role-playing game. Some cool art in the game. I think it's a turn-based RPG. And yeah, that's about all I know about it. Looks kind of a standard JRPG fare in my opinion. There's some big bad guy, cool art, lots of turn-based fights. Next up was an update for Nintendo Switch Sports, and it's a free update that's coming out this summer, and it's adding a new sport, and that sport is basketball. I think there were 2 modes, 2-on-2, you can play against the computer, and 3-point shooting contest, and then I think you can play both of those modes online as well. And so it uses motion control from the Joy-Cons, which is I wonder how well that tracking works, but it looks like it's timing based. You like lift it up to start your shot and then push it all the way forward to take the shot, and it's probably based on where you are in the character's jump, to like your accuracy level, I would imagine. But anyways, there are online 2-on-2 matches. I'm guessing you probably do use the joystick as well to move your character, but then do those motions to pass and shoot. So hopefully that's cool. Sometimes Nintendo's simple takes on those sports can be very fun. So hopefully that one's a hit and not a miss. This next game I thought looked really cool. It's unfortunately not coming out till 2025, but it's a very colorful, what looks like a Metroidvania game to me, with these cool pastel colors. A little hard to tell exactly what's going on, but you play as this kind of spark electric like character with this kind of big light eyeball at the front of their head. And you're going through this very cool world. It's called Mio Memories in Orbit. I don't think I said that correctly. So it's probably Mio, then like a colon, Memories in Orbit. But it looks like it's pretty fast-paced, like combat, and then exploration in this kind of 2D Metroidvania game. And it looks like there's some cool boss battles, kind of similar to something like Hollow Knight or Mega Man, where you get in the boss room, the door closes, and then you've got this big fight. So it looked pretty cool. Next up was an update for Disney Illusion Island. It's a free update that was available the same day that this direct aired. It aired on the 18th, Monday morning. And this update, what did I write? I don't know exactly what it even added, to be honest, but this is a colorful like Disney game where I don't even know. It looked like there was some platforming and some solving like simple clues by connecting dots. I have not heard really anything about that game, but there it was. Next up was a game that looks like it's very much going for the Animal Crossing vibe, called Hello Kitty Island Adventures. This one is also coming to other consoles and I think PC. So this one might end up being a hit since Animal Crossing is not on other platforms. If it's as good as Animal Crossing was. That one kind of hit at the perfect time right when COVID started. And so basically everyone was playing Animal Crossing because they were stuck at home, I guess. And yeah, it looks like it has cool art, could be fun. Next up was a game that gave me very nostalgic vibes. There's a Looney Tunes game called Wacky World of Sports, and it says 4 sports on the game. I saw basketball, tennis, and soccer, but I didn't notice what the 4th sport was. There's soccer. I just saw tennis and basketball. So I don't know. Maybe Devin can find the 4th one while he's scrubbing through. But when I was watching, I was like, I don't see it. It's out this autumn. It's also coming to other platforms as well. I'm sure that you can find out what the 4th sport is if you Google it. I just ran out of time, I guess, during my prep. But game looks pretty cool. I remember we had a Looney Tunes like fighting game where you would fight each other, kind of in 3D Super Smash Bros. Style, and like smash each other with TNT and anvils and stuff. Growing up, and I love Looney Tunes, but they generally have not had like a great video games, I don't think, except for the couple on the Super Nintendo I liked. But that was a long time ago. All right, next up was a free update for Among Us. The note I wrote here was that there are new imposter roles and new crewmates. So if that means something to you, which I'm sure it does, because lots of people play Among Us, then look forward to that. It was available, did I say that same day, I think? Yeah, update should be already available when you're hearing this. I've never played Among Us. I think it kind of requires like a big group that is willing to get online and chat together. And you know, we've already talked about this. I don't have that many friends, so
I don't either.
Next up was a game. Definitely looked like it was going for Pokemon vibes, but I was really surprised. Instead of like catching these creatures out in the wild, you're farming, and you farm these plants, and then you harvest the plant, and the plant turns into the animal, which is very, very odd. It's called Farmagia, I think. And yeah, it kind of looks like it could be fun. It's mixing like farming with Pokemon with Pikmin, because then you do these fights where there's like 30 of these animals all around you, and you like command like, okay, 15 of you go over there and fight that guy, and the rest of you go over here. So I don't know, maybe that is a blend of games that could be fun. Kind of has a okay looking, again, kind of very Japanese styled art. But I thought that was very unique. I haven't seen a game that tried to be all of those things at once. That was, Farmagia. On November 1st is when it comes out. Next up, a banger for David. This is a remake. Well, it's just a HD version of Donkey Kong Country Returns that came out on the Wii. It's also including all of the levels that were exclusive to the 3DS version. So those will be levels I haven't played before. This comes out on January 16th, so not till next year. I do have this game on my Wii U with the Wii disc. So this game rules. I love Donkey Kong Country is my absolute favorite set of platforming games, which says a lot because Super Mario World and Super Mario Wonder and other 2D Mario games are like incredible as well. But there's just something about DK and his buddies that gets me for some reason. And I think I like how extremely difficult they usually get. But anyways, if you like Donkey Kong Country, look forward to that one in January. You've played this game before, right, Devin?
I've played at least some of the new Donkey Kongs, but I'm not sure which. Like the Frozen World one.
Yeah, that one's probably even better. That one they've already put on Switch, but yeah, this one's good too. It's not as good as Tropical. What the heck is that Frozen one called? Tropical Freeze? Yeah, Tropical Freeze, I think. That one's rules. Love Donkey Kong Country. Next up, these had been rumored for a couple of weeks, I think, beforehand, but Dragon Quest III is getting what they're calling an HD/2D remake. So it's high definition, but still keeps like the 2D pixel art for the characters. It actually looks really cool, I think, the art style with the 2D pixel characters and then a 3D world.
It does, yeah.
I've never played a Dragon Quest game. They kind of came out and started around when the original Final Fantasy games started. Very much like an old school JRPG. Lots of random battles and grinding to get level up so that you're ready for boss fights and stuff. And I haven't historically been into turn-based games. I've said that many times, but I don't know. Maybe I would try something like this. I'm not 100% sure. I think this would be a bigger hit for people that love Dragon Quest. I'm sure this was like a big deal. Because Dragon Quest is a series that's still going on. I think they're on like Dragon Quest 12 or something now. So anyways, if you like Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake will be out on November 14th. And I'm not exactly sure why they did it this way. But Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remake is coming out in 2025. And I think the creator said that we recommend people play them in that order. Dragon Quest 3 and then 1 and 2. So I don't know why. The Dragon Quest games I've heard are kind of split. They'll do a trilogy. Like 1, 2, and 3 are a continuous story. And then 4, 5, and 6, and then 7, 8, and 9. So I think these are one story of, this guy, Erdrick. So if you want to have the full Erdrick experience, the third game will be out this November. And then the first and second game, completing Erdrick's story, will be out next year. I do love the way the slimes look. That Dragon Quest slime plushie that the creator there is holding. Very iconic character, for sure. All right, next up, the note I wrote on this next one is very crummy graphics. But maybe the video was buffering. I did watch it live on YouTube. But it is called Funko Fusion. You play as a bunch of Funko characters. I think they said there were over 30 Funko characters you play as in these different funky scenarios. I didn't think it looked very good, unfortunately. I do have a couple dozen Funkos from the days when Funkos were the hot thing. But I don't know. I don't know if this...
Do you have He-Man or Five Nights at Freddy's? I've seen both of them.
Yeah, I don't have those Funkos. I wonder if I have any of them that are in this trailer. Who's that? Luke Skywalker?
That's what I'm thinking. Chucky?
Is that Chucky? Yeah, I don't have either of those.
That's one I would get.
Yeah, Devin would have a Chucky for sure. That game is out on September 13th if you want to play Funko Fusion. Next up, they had a montage of 4 games that they were calling their Spooky, Silly, and Strategic montage. Luigi's Mansion 2 is getting an HD remake. We already knew this. It is coming out next week on June 27th. So this was just another trailer for that. Luigi's Mansion is such a fun series. I've only played the first one and the third one, so I'm very excited to play the second one, actually. And I'd love to play the 3DS ones at some point. Hopefully they'll come over too. After the Luigi's Mansion trailer was a game called Little Denpa Men. It's coming out on July 22nd. The note I wrote here is weird RPG mixed with Animal Crossing with these colorful dudes with freaky faces. I don't even know how to explain this game, but I think that's a okay way of putting it. You build this Animal Crossing world, and you play as this like me-looking character that is wearing like a, what would you call that? A one-piece
Teletubby outfit?
Pajama Teletubby outfit, yeah. Very weird. Next up is Metal Slug Attack Reloaded. I really like Metal Slug. Some of those games are so fun, like the older ones. This is kind of a newer take on or a new genre, I think, with Metal Slug added in. It's a deck builder where you have to choose kind of your deck or the characters you're taking into these fights. And then I think it's an auto battler where you like choose when the characters maybe come in, or maybe your deck is shuffled and then they randomly come in or something. It's available today. And when I say today, I mean Monday when the show happened. Then last up was another look at Darkest Dungeon 2, which comes out on July 15th, 2024. I fell off the first Darkest Dungeon just based on how extremely difficult it was. This new one it'll probably be just as difficult. But the art style is so much more like vibrant, and the characters actually animate and move when you do attacks and stuff, and you have this cool like carriage that you're driving from area to area. So I think the art would hopefully pull me in a little better in this one. We'll see. Next up, they went over their online and expansion pack games, and they have 4 games that were, I think, available today, is what they said. First one was Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past 4 Swords, which is a very unique one, but you can play 4-player co-op in that one, I think. Then Metroid Zero Mission, which is a remake of the original Metroid game that was made for the Game Boy Advance. I think people like that version of the original Metroid game. And then they announced a Nintendo 64 Mature 17 Plus pack, and it comes with Turok, which looks very dated, but might be really fun. And the other one I thought was really cool, given Xbox's show just a couple weeks ago where they own Perfect Dark now. The original Perfect Dark is coming to that Mature collection, and it's coming with online multiplayer as well. That was a big game in the past. I've never played it because we didn't have a Nintendo 64 and didn't really. I didn't know many people that had a Nintendo 64 and could play M-rated games, so Perfect Dark is kind of a blind spot for me, but I think the vibe's really cool. So those were all available the same day as well. Okay, next up was another JRPG looking game. This is a turn-based one. It's a tactical turn-based RPG, kind of chibi art, I think is what they call it, where the characters kind of have big cartoony heads during certain segments at least. And this game was called, where did I put it? Phantom Brave: The Lost Hero. And it comes out next year in 2025. I think it looks like pretty and whimsical. I think you kind of combine different things around your character during these battles. So the battle system looked pretty unique. And like the different things you're combining might create like this barrel character here that's a barrel on fire, and they have a certain range they can do damage in. So if you like that kind of game, that was, what was it called? Phantom Brave: The Lost Hero. Next up was really cool, and it's a collection of 7 arcade games from Capcom, and this was a Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection. It's coming with online play later this year, and it had a bunch of games. I think Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is listed here, and then there was one game that was based just on, the Punisher here is like a brawler similar to like Double Dragon or something. There's X-Men versus Street Fighter. Lots of just cool 2D games from the past are being brought back in this collection. So if you liked Marvel vs. Capcom, which is pretty widely regarded as like one of the best 2D fighters with the most awesome art from back in the day, then look out for that collection. I don't think they gave a date other than this year, 2024. Next up was another big Nintendo game, Super Mario Party Jamboree. They were calling it their biggest Mario Party game ever. There's over 110 mini games, a new mode called Koopathlon, where you can play with 20 online players. You play across these different islands that are each like the different game boards. I kind of have a soft spot for Mario Party. Kind of the melding of Mario with a board game, but there's usually a just a crap ton of luck in in those games. Even if you win like every mini game, get a bad die roll and somebody steals 5 of your stars on the last turn. So you got to be okay with that. But they're generally a fun time. And it's fun to be Waluigi and I don't know, run around a board, I guess. But it looks pretty fun, in my opinion. Next up is probably the biggest, or the game that's most talked about from this showcase. It's called The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. It's a Zelda game where Link has been kidnapped, and so you play the game as Princess Zelda for the first time. It is made in the same art style as the Link's Awakening remake that came out a few years ago. Very pretty. Like if you took the Super Nintendo Zelda, what's that called? Link to the Past, and made it like colorful and Pixar looking today, is kind of the vibe you'd get. But in this game, you play as Princess Zelda, and you do not play and fight the same way as Link, which makes sense. She, is a magic-focused character. So you play with her as with her magic staff, and it seems to be more like a puzzle game than like an adventure with sword and shield like Link would be. With your magic staff, you can make echoes of different objects. I think we see here in a minute she'll make an echo of a table and a box to help her solve different puzzles and reach places she wasn't able to previously reach. And then they also had Aonuma here. He's the director of basically everything Zelda related. He directed both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, I believe. He kind of talked about the game for a minute, but you can also make echoes of enemies, and then the echoes of the enemies that you make will fight for you. So very unique mechanics that they've built specifically to play a Zelda game as Zelda, as opposed to just giving Zelda a sword like Link has, which I think is cool. If they were going to make a game where you play as Zelda, I'm glad that they made it different, and I personally love this art style, but I know it's probably a little controversial. I bet a lot of people would love it to be a Breath of the Wild art style, but I like a good top-down Zelda game, and here she is making those echoes. These are pretty simple examples here, making the table echoes, but it seems like there's quite a bit of creativity. They mentioned that with this ecosystem, they were hoping that everyone that played the game would be able to have a slightly different experience, solve puzzles, and do fights differently than other people did. There was an echo of a bed, a cube of water that she used for like swimming up, all kinds of different things that you can echo with your magic staff. So I'm very much looking forward to that one. It is out on September 26th of this year, which isn't too far away. They also announced a new Switch, a Switch Lite that has Zelda branding that will be out that same day, kind of in tandem with this game. So if you want a gold Switch,
it's beautiful
black and gold Switch. It is kind of cool looking. It has a big Triforce logo on the back. You can really rep your Zelda love if you want to get a new Switch Lite. The thing I've been most nervous about with the Switch Lite, because when we've thought about getting one for the kids at some point, because they are a bit cheaper and smaller, the screen smaller and stuff, you can't play them docked. I don't think, right? I think that's kind of their shtick, is they can't be docked. The other thing is the Joy-Con, the controllers don't come off. So if I got stick drift with this unit, I'd be pretty mad. And I imagine you'd have to like take the whole thing apart if you dared, or send
and it's bound to happen at some point,
Yeah, I think so, because none of the manufacturers use Hall effect joysticks yet that are magnet based and can't get stick drift. They all use the traditional ones. So I'm hoping that in the Switch 2, PlayStation 6, Xbox Series Y, that they all convert to Hall effect sensors. but they probably like selling us lots of extra controllers. So I don't know that they will, which is capitalism at its worst, ladies and gentlemen. Anyways, Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. Very cool. Cool idea. I'm glad that they're doing that. Next up was a little look at Just Dance, the 2025 edition. Ubisoft continues to make these probably forever because they sell so well. It's coming out October of this year. Lots of creepy looking clown characters in this trailer, but that's kind of the vibe, trying to match like crazy music videos and stuff. I think there are 40 new songs, and you can also sign up for like their Just Dance subscription that has like hundreds and hundreds of previous songs as well. Next up was a trailer that I was surprised to see in Nintendo's showcase, but maybe not, I guess. It was a trailer for Lego Horizon Adventures, which we saw at the Summer Game Fest. We talked about it last episode. Definitely doesn't look as good here in this Switch trailer as it did in the Summer Game Show trailer, where it was probably playing on a PlayStation 5. But still looks colorful and fun, and I'm sure it will sell a ton on the Switch. That they didn't give any more of a date than holiday 2024 for that one, but it looks pretty fun. For a Lego game, I think that world probably pairs pretty well with Lego. Next up is a game that's been out for a while called Stray, about a lost cat trying to reunite with his cat family. It's a pretty fun game. I have yet to finish it, but I have played a few hours of this game, and it's a fun game. You're solving puzzles with a cat, and then you end up going through this city, and the city is very futuristic. Like, there's no people. It's all like cyberpunk, like with robots. And so you have to like avoid some robots, you get this little robot friend that helps you solve some puzzles and stuff, all with kind of the goal of getting back to your cat family. It's been out for a couple years, came to Xbox, I think, like a year after it came to PlayStation, and it's finally coming to Switch. It is out this holiday season. So if you like fun little puzzle games or cats, that one will probably be a hit with you. Next up was a trailer for Tales of the Shire, a Lord of the Rings game, which comes out holiday 2024. We've already seen a trailer for this game, but this was just another one that kind of went over the things you can do in the game, fishing and cooking and throwing dinner parties for your friends. I'm hopeful anytime there's Lord of the Rings in the title of a game, that's going to be great, but this looks very much like a not David game. I don't know yet for sure, but is that the vibe you get from it too, Devin?
Yeah, I wish that I liked different types of games. Because there's a coziness to this. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, this is nice. People would enjoy watching this be streamed. But sometimes I struggle with these things. I don't know. It could be amazing. I also love Lord of the Rings. Mm-hmm. And high hopes for it, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling. I generally like a game to either have like I need it to have like good gameplay usually, like something action-packed. I'm doing something cool. Very picky with games that try to be just the cozy simulator. All right, next up was a new collection of Ace Attorney games. I've talked about a couple of these a few weeks ago maybe. They are very fun. You're solving criminal cases. Some of them are very wacky. You go in the courtroom and say objection a lot, and then you have to like present evidence, find evidence at these different crime sites and stuff. They're a good time if you don't mind reading quite a lot of text. But they're very fun. This is two new ones. One of the two that are going to be in this collection, called the Ace Attorney Investigations Collection, has never been released outside of Japan, so it'll be the first time ever in English and coming to America. The collection's out in September, on September 6th, and it looks like you can swap back and forth between like new art versus the pixel art, similar to the Halo Master Chief Collection swapping that you were doing. Okay, 3 more announcements here, then we're done with the Nintendo show. Next one was a game called Last Defense Academy. This game, I wrote in my notes here, visual novel, ? With tactical battles, ? Danganronpa-like ? And then the trailer ended by saying that this is a game from the Danganronpa team. So I was like, oh, okay. Seems pretty spot on. Very weird post-apocalyptic game with like these giant post-apocalyptic teddy bears with goo all over their face. Really weird. But then, yeah, it's called the 100 Line Last Defense Academy. And it's coming out early 2025. I believe this one is one that's also coming out to other consoles and platforms. If you like Danganronpa, you like visual novels and Japanese, especially visual novels, then this is probably a game for you. I've wanted to check out Danganronpa because they have a horror and crime twist where you're trying to escape kind of being killed by the evil teddy bear Monokuma. This one looks like it's a little less horror focused and more just like sci-fi, trying to save the world from this weird scenario. So that one's available early 2025. Next up was a game called Romancing Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven. I guess it's a remake. I think I'd heard the name, but I know almost nothing about the game. But you have to fight these 7, I think that it said in the trailer, like gods that have gone evil. The note I put here are there are timeline battles now. And when I wrote that, it meant something, and I don't know what it means now. But another Japanese looking turn-based game. It'll be out on October 24th. Okay. And then probably the second, well, this and the Zelda game. I mean, Nintendo had a lot of good stuff in this presentation, but this is another big one. They ended with a look at a new Metroid Prime game, Metroid Prime 4, which I think was announced 7 years ago and has been in a bit of a development hell, is what they usually call it, where the team that was on it, they kicked off, and then they put Retro Studios on it. Retro Studios is the company that developed Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. And I think Retro maybe did some of the Metroid Prime games in the past. So a good team. This is, just a first look at Metroid Prime 4, which is called Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. And it will be coming to Switch in 2025 and most certainly be also on Super Switch next year. So I really like Metroid Prime. I've played 1, 2, and 3. It's been a long time though, so I would really like to replay them. They're just they're a little hard to replay. They remade the original Metroid Prime for the Switch, but they haven't done 2 and 3 yet. And so if you want to play those, it's a little tricky to do so. But this one looks cool. I love the vibe of Metroid. Samus is such a cool character. The Metroid's floating behind that villain there at the end. Who is, kind of looks like a Samus-like character with like a dark armor set with these big shoulder spikes. It looks really cool. So hopefully that'll be awesome. Hopefully it's at the very least full 1080-60 on the Super Switch. I don't know what the Super Switch is going to be capable of, obviously, but I'd be really bummed if it was like a 720 game or something. All right, well, that was the entire Nintendo Direct. Devin, how do you think that Direct was in comparison to the 6 shows that we went over last week?
I think between Zelda, Metroid Prime, some of those really big games, they have some bangers in there, but at the same time, so many of those games you went over looked so mediocre to me.
Yeah, a lot of forgettable ones in the middle for sure. Mario and... Oh, go ahead.
They're just making so many games that look very similar. Turn-based fighting. I don't know. It's hard to know based off a short clip of a game, but there are some in here. I'm more excited for Luigi Mansion 2 HD version than I am some new cartoon-looking game where I turn-based fight some random wolf in a forest. You know what I mean?
No, totally. I agree. I think it's probably... I'm guessing those games do a lot better in Japan than they do here. And so those... If this is like a worldwide showcase, right? And so I'm sure the Japanese audience is like... They're probably much more excited about... what are they called? Farmagia and Fantasian Neo Dimension and Fairy Tale 2 and Romancing Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven remake than we are. So I totally agree with you there. But I think they did have some certified bangers with Mario and Luigi Brothership. I think looks awesome. The Nintendo World Championships thing might be cool. Looney Tunes game might be cool. Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, that's a banger. The Dragon Quest 3 thing might be good. Luigi's Mansion 2 is probably a banger. And then, yeah, the Zelda game, Super Mario Party Jamboree, and the Metroid Prime show there. So, yeah, they showed quite a few of their own games. I was surprised that they didn't hold more of these to be like launch games for their Super Switch. But, yeah, I thought it was very solid. I thought it was probably not quite as good as the Xbox One, but just about. And both of them just making Sony look like a freaking loser. Announce something. Even though Astrobot, again, looks amazing. But all right, that was all for that showcase. Next up, a few little tiny bits of news in the video game world. First, Sony is skipping Gamescom again. That is kind of the next... That's the show in Germany. That is kind of the next one after this summer season. So I think it's usually in August. And Jeff Keighley has a show there every year called Opening Night Live, where, again, just similar to Summer Game Fest, he'll announce a bunch of crap. So it's the next time that things will be announced. Sony's skipping it for the 5th year in a row, which I think seems a little dumb since they seem to have taken a big L this summer compared to Nintendo and Xbox. But they have announced a few things historically for what's it called? Or during the opening night live thing. So maybe they'll have a couple things there. We'll see. And next, there is going to be a Bandai Namco showcase on July 5th that should be a little over an hour, which I think is going to be a big deal for people that like games from Bandai Namco. They're also a Japanese company, a lot of Japanese role-playing games. The few games that I think are mentioned in some of these articles about the showcase are things like a new Tales game. Tales of Arise was the last one. I actually have that game, started it, but I didn't get very far. I would like to get back to it, but so many games. There's a new Dragon Ball game that I think was announced recently that they'll probably show. Gundam Breaker 4 Sword Art Online. Kind of a publishing house that I don't play a lot of their games, but if you do play a lot of Bandai games, you'll probably want to check out that showcase on July 5th. And then last up, just a real quick note, in our movie and show news segment, Sony confirmed that they're starting production on their next Uncharted movie. Devin, did you like the Uncharted movie with Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah, enough.
Yeah.
I honestly like both of them, and it was, if I'm entertained and it takes my mind off the world, I'm in.
I agree. I thought it was good to slightly better than good. Not amazing. Some of the parts are a little ridiculous with the helicopters lifting those giant pirate ships through the air for like 20 minutes. But, Uncharted kind of has some ridiculous moments, so it wasn't too out of pocket. But hopefully, just like Uncharted 2 kind of sent that franchise into like the upper echelon of games, maybe this Uncharted 2 movie can do the same thing for the movies. We'll see. All right, we're on to board game news. There's only 2 board game news items I wanted to go over this week, and then we'll hit Crowdfunding Corner, which will be fun because Devin's going to pull up all of the campaigns so we can look at them, similar to how we did with Grim Coven last week, which I think was fun to look at the pieces together at least. That way I'm not just saying weird board game names and Devin has no idea what the heck I'm talking about.
Yes.
But before we do that, a couple pieces of news in board games. The first one's a bit of a bummer. Game Brewer is a pretty popular board game publishing company, but kind of a smaller one. They're shutting down. A few of their biggest games are one that I don't know how to pronounce. I think it's Gugong, and another one is named Paris. I have one game from them called Oak, which I actually showed it on the podcast probably a month ago in like most unique board game pieces. We were talking about that at the end of one of the episodes. And it's the game where you have the meeple and then you upgrade them to like an elder of their tribe. and you can put one of 8 different pieces on top of the meeple to make them one of 8 different types of elder. One of them has like this satchel, one of them has a staff with some ravens on it, one has these like antlers that stick up. It's a pretty fun game. It's not like incredibly amazing, but I think it's like a solid like 8. So yeah, I have Oak. I think it's a good game. I think it's a bummer when companies that make good stuff aren't able to stay in business. So I wanted to read a couple quotes here from them. They said, quote, "We want to extend our heartfelt thanks to all of our fans who have supported us through the years. Unfortunately, the increasing competitiveness of the market has made it challenging for us to remain profitable." End quote. So that's what Game Brewer said, which, it's kind of a bummer that they're not able to be profitable and they make like games that people really highly regard. I got this article from Board Game Wire that Devin is looking at here. And Board Game Wire does really great work. They're like very like a great reputable spot for board game news. And they had a few sentences in their article that I thought were important, so I'm going to quote them directly. They said, quote, "As the board game industry has soared over the last decade, so too has the difficulty faced by smaller publishers in making sure their designs get noticed amid the slew of new releases each year. Well over 3,000 board games were released last year, even without counting expansions, according to data from Board Game Geek. Pegasus Spiel, which is a different publishing house, co-founder Karsten Esser told Board Game Wire in an interview last year that it was, quote, clear that there are too many games being published, end quote, inside a quote. So yeah, I thought that was sad news. I think Game Brewer, did really great games, and it's just sad that I think this is something that we see in both industries, in video games and in board games. There are just too many games. So if I was someone getting into, I want to make a board game, like, that's awesome. I'm really glad that anyone can, but man, it's hard to stand out. If there are 3,000 board games coming out every year, how is mine, made by, me and maybe like one other person, going to get any coverage? There's no way like a Dicebreaker or an IGN or a Board Game Wire or is even going to know about it. And so I'm not going to get any attention from like a board game site because there's just too many other bigger games for them to cover. So I would then have to go to something like Kickstarter or GameFound and hope that the audience there really vibes with it. And you kind of like, it's a shot in the dark and you hope that your thing goes viral. But if it doesn't, you just lose, which is a bummer. So just wanted to give a shout out to that. I love smaller indie video games and smaller and board games made by smaller developers as well. And so it stinks that there's probably so many good games being made that are just slipping through the cracks, and so many companies like this that are shutting down before they kind of get to reach their full potential. So anyways, bit of somber news, but I just wanted to throw that out there. I don't know what the solution is. That's a difficult solution because we want more people to be able to make games. That's a good thing. But I think Board Game Wire said in that same article that there were like 3,000 new games that came out this last year, but the profit or the revenue from games sold was only up 0.4%. So it's the same amount of money year over year, but it's spread between so many more pieces or people and games that the amount of the pie that someone can earn, if they're not the biggest of publishers in the world, is just so small. Anyways, so farewell to Game Brewer. We'll miss you. All right. Next up, the Spiel de Jahres. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's German. This means Game of the Year, and there is a jury of German game critics. Kind of similar. I mean, it's probably not similar, but it reminds me in my head of like the Oscars, where there's an academy of like movie critics that nominate movies and then decide on who wins like best actor and best movie. This set of awards from Germany is the most prestigious board game awards in the world. If you win the Spiel de Jahres, I think they've said you can expect like hundreds of thousands to millions of more sales because your game won this or was even nominated for this award. So the 9 games I'm going to mention here, congrats to them. They will probably sell way more now. And that, I'm glad for that. So I just wanted to go over these nominees. They have 3 different segments. The first one is the Spiel de Jahres, the game of the year, and this is kind of the family level of games that are anyone could play. They're not too complex. The 3 nominees are In the Footsteps of Darwin, Captain Flip, and Sky Team. I just recently got Sky Team. I'm excited to play it with Devin. I think that'll be a very fun episode of trying to land airplanes, and half of the time you cannot talk to each other. It's a very unique game in that way. And then we talked about Captain Flip earlier, being one that I think just came out, at least in America, this month. So yeah, some great games, it seems like, in that kind of family weight nomination pool. Next up, they have the Kennerspiel de Jahres, and that is the expert level game of the year. The 3 that are here are Daybreak. That's a co-op game about like reducing like CO2 emissions, I think. Is made by the same guy, Matt Leacock, I think his name is, who designed Pandemic. So a bit more of a medium weight co-op game. And then Guild of the Merchant Explorers, I think is kind of a more heavy roll and write style game. And then the last one was Ticket to Ride Legacy, which is a legacy version of Ticket to Ride. I'm not a huge fan. I haven't played many legacy games, but I don't know, haven't really been intrigued to do so, but I know a lot of people really like that one. Then the third category is the Kinder Spiel de Jahres, which is the kid level games. And those 3 are Big Little Gems, The Magic Keys, and Taco Cat Pizza Jr. I hadn't heard of those games, so hopefully they're good. I don't generally buy games in that super kid friendly or kids like difficulty level. But just wanted to give a shout out to those nominations. We will see who wins in the coming weeks. I'm not exactly sure when they announce that, but probably soon, I would imagine. All right, next up we got Crowdfunding Corner. We're going to go over 8, I think, games this week that I thought looked pretty great that are either on Kickstarter or GameFound or somewhere similar to that. First one is a pretty complex, medium-heavy Euro game. Basically, there are a bunch of dice, and you move dice around this rondel, and when you move the dice off, you get to put meeples out. It's a pretty complex game. There's a lot going on. The company that's making it, Alley Cat Games, has made some really great ones. I have one of theirs right here called Tinner's Trail. And yeah, I just wanted to give them a shout out because I think this one looks really good. It has a cool player board here where you're tracking kind of your own stuff. Love dual layered boards, and it looks pretty complex. There's a lot going on there, but I do love a good Euro game, and I've really loved Euro games with dice. I kind of knew that, like I really like Pulsar 2849, but playing the White Castle quite a few times in recent weeks, I like it when someone can. You take a normal D6, which seems like the most vanilla of all board game pieces almost. But if you do something fun with that and unique with that vanilla piece, like that's so cool. Okay, so that one looks pretty great in my opinion. Next up, one I'm very excited for, but probably will not back. This one's called Unstoppable. It's from Renegade Game Studios, and it's in their Solo Hero series. I love this series. I have 3 games in their Solo Hero series right now. I have Proving Grounds, which Devin also has. That one is a dice rolling game where you trying to defeat like these gladiators. I have Warp's Edge, which is a bag building game. And I have Wreckland Run. This one is their newest one. And man, it looks really cool. It's a deck building game that comes with hundreds, I think, of cards. But the cool thing about this one is, so a deck builder, you're trying to build like a better deck. So you're trying to purge your bad cards and get better cards, upgrade your deck, basically. In this one, the cards are not just a single, like, regular card. It comes with 110 sleeves, and you'll be combining cards. There's some like GIFs and images on this page, Devin, if you scroll, I can't remember if it's up or down, but that show the cards layer together. So you'll put like 3 or 4 different cards in a single sleeve, and then that will be your new card. So you can kind of like mix and match and upgrade your cards in order to make your deck as custom as you want. I think that's such a cool idea. It's not the newest idea, but doing it to this extent with those cutouts is probably the most, like, I don't know, like a detailed way that I've seen somebody do that. So I really like this Solo Hero series. The reason I say I'm not going to back it, I think, is I don't know. This one is very expensive on Kickstarter, in my opinion. I think the lowest version is $60, and then you still have to pay shipping. There's a lot going on in this game. Like I said, 110 sleeve, hundreds of cards, and there's a couple boards, and there's also a version that's a little more expensive that comes with a nice neoprene playmat that like keeps all of your play area like organized. And I love a good playmat, so that like $75 version is probably the one I would want. But then with shipping, it's gonna be like $100. The problem I'm running up against is this game will surely come to retail, and I think all of their other Solo Hero series games have. And I was looking back at my game collection, and I got Warp's Edge for $14, and I got Wreckland Run for $20. And I think I got Proving Grounds for about $20 as well. So it seems like the early adopter fee here is very high. You'll get the game first, and you'll get all the fancy components. You can get a cool playmat, and there's probably some exclusive like stretch goal cards that you can only get through this campaign. But that just seems like such a premium to be paying like $80 more than I'll probably pay if I wait like 6 months after the game finally does come out. And I have so many other games to play. But anyways, this is one I'm definitely adding to my wish list. I'm definitely going to be seeking it out. But I'm going to wait till it comes to retail just because of that. Which sounds like we're talking about how board game publishers don't get enough money. And here I am talking about wanting to give them less money. But I also need to keep my money. So I don't know. It's a big pickle. But that one looks really cool in my opinion. I like that. The cards in those sleeves. Hopefully it's smooth and not too annoying, like pulling them out and organizing the new upgraded card and putting it back in. But I'm sure they've tested that. Also from a very famous designer, I think it's from John D. Clare, who has done a lot of famous games. So excited about that one. Next up are 2 games that I am a little unsure about, but I thought they looked like they had potential. This one is called Rise of the Wastelands, and it's a post-apocalyptic 4X game. 4X is a very specific genre, and I think the X's are supposed to stand for like explore. So you have to explore new areas. Maybe another one is expand. I don't remember all the X's. One of them is exterminate, because you probably have to fight like creatures out in the wilds as you're exploring. So yeah, explore is the first X, as you can see here. They're flipping the tiles over. I can't remember what all the 4 of the X's are, but those 4 pillars are what make a 4X game. So you're exploring out. The cool thing I thought about this game, it has 2 versions. It has a version with fancy plastic minis that like let you slot pieces in together. But then it also has a standard version with wooden pieces. And usually, like the standard version compared to the deluxe version with minis is such a huge difference. Like we looked at Grim Coven last week, Devin, and those cardboard standees of the monsters, right? Seems like such a downgrade compared to like the huge big miniatures. If you get out of this video and scroll down to the standard version, I'm interested to see how you think it looks compared to those plastic minis, because they're like nice silk screen printed, I think is what it's called, where it has like ink printed on the side. So this is the miniature version that's like 89 euros, and then this is the standard version that's 30 euros cheaper. But they're nice big wooden pieces. You can see those there that have printing on the sides. And if you scroll down a little more, you can see how those printed pieces also fit in the dual layer player boards. So it doesn't really feel like much of a downgrade, which in my opinion is such a nice change for once, because usually it feels like a huge downgrade. In fact, I might actually like how the wooden ones look better.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like the plastic is that much of an upgrade.
Yeah, because they still look really cool on the boards. They're still like kind of big and chunky. They still fit in the same shape wells in the player pieces or the player boards. So when I was looking at this one, I was like, man, I've never really tried a 4X game. I don't think this one's probably for me, but I wanted to give it a shout out because I think the theme's cool. Hopefully the game is pretty solid. Those player boards look awesome, being able to track everything on your own board. And the wooden pieces, I think I might even prefer that. So saving 30 euros, which is like $35, $40, that seems like a no-brainer to me. So I'm going to look into that one a bit more. Wanted to give it a shout out because I thought that was cool that both of their versions look really awesome. Next up is a tactical card game. Man, this one looks like it has a lot of potential too. I think this game has like 300, or I think it was actually 400 cards in the game. And there are, I think, 6 or 10, if you get the expansion, different starting decks of cards that each like faction starts with. And then I think the art is super cool on the cards as well. We've talked recently a lot about AI art, and how it's, very controversial topic. I couldn't tell for sure that they don't include any AI art, but they said specifically right here, the art is 322 pieces of extraordinary art by 32 different artists. I thought that was such a cool approach to take. They probably contracted out with like, hey, to these different artists, can you make us 10 pieces of art? And can you make us 10 pieces of art? This is what we want you to do. And you'd be a little nervous doing that with so many different artists that like, okay, the style of this game is going to seem very incoherent if we have 32 different artists making the art for the game. But in a sci-fi world like this, I think it actually looks like it would go together just fine. They just look like different races, and so yeah, there might be like different color compositions and stuff, but it seems to fit. So anyways, I thought the art looked really cool. I hope that they're paying those artists well and that everything's above board here, like it seems like it is. And then it seems like a pretty cool card game where you can play 2 players, 3 players, or 4 players. And there's so many cards, and you start each player deck starts with like 30 unique cards, so you start from like a very asymmetric like starting point. Again, this was another one that I need to research a bit more because I'm not sure if I would like fully love the gameplay, but I wanted to give it some props because the art looks really cool in my opinion. I love sci-fi though, so that might be a little bit of a bias here. Tons of cards, seemed like a pretty good value. And I liked the 32 artists idea. So hopefully the gameplay can match. I need to do a little more digging there, but that is Sovereign Fall of Wormwood. And yeah, $55 for that core pledge. Yeah, seems like a pretty good deal in my opinion. Next up are a couple of games that, well, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 games here in the maybe category. I wanted to give this company a shout out. They're based in Idaho. I think it was in Rexburg, and they make abstract games. So an abstract game is something like that's basically themeless, right? There's no like dragons or sci-fi art here. We've got pieces checkers and chess are abstract games. The game that they're kickstarting here is called Wrestling Cubes, and you move. Each player plays as a different color of cubes, and you slide them back and forth, trying to trap your opponent's cubes. If your opponent ever cannot move all of their cubes, they lose and you win. Very cool looking game. The pieces are like these squares with 3 different triangle indentations on top that have these cool looking triangle tokens that go inside them. And they specifically made these little indents so that those tokens are really easy to get in and out. So you just press on the token. Oh, it shows it right here, Devin, the finger right there in that picture. So they just kind of press right out. I need to do a little more research into this game and the other games that they make. This game you can get right now, and it'll, I think, come out in October of this year. You can also add on their other 5, I think. It was either 5 or 6 abstract games that they have made, and they will ship them immediately after the Kickstarter ends. And so I need to do some more research into those because they look really cool. I hadn't heard of this company. They're just making like small abstract games from Idaho, and I thought this one looked really, really unique. So that one is Wrestling Cubes. I'm a bit picky with abstract games. I don't even know what the pickiness is necessarily, but because there's some I really love. I really love Yinch. I have one called Boop, where you're pushing cats around on a board. That's really great as well. I just ordered one that should be here tomorrow called Donuts. It's a pretty brand new kind of abstract game. So I think that there are some that are just awesome, but sometimes I don't know. I feel like they can get in their way a little bit sometimes if the rule set's too complex. It needs to be elegant, where I can just remember the rules just by looking at the board. That's, I think, the perfect scenario. Anyways, cool campaign, Wrestling Cubes. That one's on a Kickstarter. Next up is a game called Bubble Net. It's a 10-minute game. Super unique theme. It's all about, I guess, whales. I didn't know they did this. When they want to feed and catch fish, they blow bubbles in like this circle to try and like funnel the fish into one area and confuse them a whole bunch. And then they like come up to the surface and eat as many of them as they can. And this game is kind of built around that idea. You can play it by yourself or with up to, I think it says 4+, so probably as many players as you wanted. And it's only a 10-minute game. You're kind of moving these bubbles along this path in this spiral shape. And where you move them will also move some fish. And you win the game if you're able to eat more fish than were kicked off the board. And you lose if you weren't able to eat more fish than were kicked off the board. So it's a very simple 10-minute game. But I thought it had a cool premise. And you can get the print and play version, I think, for like $5 or $8. Or they do have an actual physical version you can buy as well. So very small game that I just wanted to give a shout out to. Next one is a very light, simple game called Misty Valley. It's a 2-player game where you're trying to just get more points than your opponent by moving your pieces around, and I think just trying to control more of the board than your opponent. I thought the whimsical nature of the game was very cool. They also mention it's pretty easy to play. They say 10 years and up, and it plays in 25 minutes, and it's very inexpensive. It's a $24 pledge. I'm sure there's shipping as well, but there's not many like good games you can get nowadays for around $20. And the pieces look pretty solid. There's like a fox and a bunny as the 2 player meeples. So I hope that one's good. It's a light 2-player strategy game. So that one's Misty Valley. Okay, and then last up is a big game. This was probably the biggest maybe. I wasn't sure if I should throw it on. It's called, I don't know how to pronounce this, Jom's Vikings. And let me see, the thing that I thought was coolest about this one. So it's a tactical card game for 1 to 4 players. I'm going to read a quote here from the page. It says, "The combat mechanics in Jom's Vikings is loosely based on a classic blackjack game. In order to score a hit and deal damage to a monster, you need to play cards with a total value lower than the critical hit value on your character card." So it seems like it has some push your luck there, like blackjack, where you're wanting to play out a certain number of cards to get as close to 21. In this case, it's not necessarily 21, it's whatever the value is on your character card, without going over 21. And so I thought that's a cool idea to take something that basically everybody knows how blackjack works, at least in some level, and then turned it into a bit of a bigger game. It also has 2 different versions. One just has standees for the player characters, but even that standee version does come with 1 miniature for like the big boss character. And then the more fancy version comes with miniatures for every character player. So another one I need to probably watch some gameplay videos of to see what does the minute to minute gameplay look like. But a cool idea taking that blackjack component, I think. All right, Devin, that was a bunch of games. What did I say? 8? That was 8 games there that we went through pretty quick. Of those 8, which one is your crowdfunding corner pick of the week?
Probably, if Sovereign plays good, I choose Sovereign.
I think that's a good choice. So you like the art style of that game as well?
I did. I saw all the cards next to each other, and even if it's different artists, they all just meshed well. Like it's cool.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. I think sci-fi is a good genre to do that 32 different artists test in.
Yeah, truly.
Because it doesn't matter so much if they look slightly different. Cool. Last up in crowdfunding corner, I just wanted to do a last call, which I usually do for projects before they're about to end. I think Grim Coven ends next week, maybe. And so here I wanted to show you just some of the things that they have updated. They've been doing, a lot of campaigns do this. They'll have either stretch goals or updates every day or two, so that maybe they'll add new things or something so that you continue to be excited about it. And so if you scroll down from here, these are all of the things they have added. So day 1, they added this graveyard dragon, which you already saw him last week when we went over him. He's a huge piece that he takes 2 hexes because he's so big.
He also takes 2 years to paint.
Yeah, he does look like he would take a bit. I want to come back to one other question for you about this campaign, but let's continue what we're doing here first. And then I think on day 3, they had a choice. They've been doing these votes where they will sometimes present 2 things and then let the backers vote on which one they want to include. I don't think they did this day, actually. Well, maybe they did, but this one is a, scroll up just a little bit. I think it's a new hunter, the Death Jester. I believe it's, a new hunter. So they added this new hunter on day 3. I think on days 5 and 7, it was a vote on which new enemy to add. Yeah, so this is an elite enemy.
That's amazing.
Frog. Yeah, super cool frog. Very creepy looking. And then the next one I think was maybe also, he might not be an elite, he might be an actual boss, but he's called the Devourer. Also very eldritch and cool looking. And then what was day 9? I can't remember. It was just a variety pack, so that I think it adds a bunch more of variability for the bosses. I think that one's just included with each pledge. Then day 11 was a new set of hunters. This one's called the Doll, and I think the Doll is a couple of hunters mixed together, and then they can split apart, because I think it shows 3 or 4 miniatures for this one hunter here. So he must be able to split apart in some way. The piece doesn't actually split apart, but the character in the game can split in 2. And they haven't shown his corrupted version yet. And then day 13 will be coming soon. So they've been doing some fun stuff over here. They continue to I mean, it's a very common thing for people to feel like they're getting value to continue to add like little updates every couple days of things that were probably already going to be in the game, but it makes you feel better. Like, oh, they added this now. My pledge even. Oh, they added that. This is one that is still burning me. I have still undecided on what to do about Grim Coven, but I got another week to decide, so we'll see. So that was the last call. If you want to back a very expensive, but what seems to be a very big game based on Bloodborne with creepy monsters and boss fights, and Grim Coven, I think, is live for another week-ish. All right, that was Crowdfunding Corner. Well, real quick, while we're here on Grim Coven, scroll back down to the Graveyard Dragon really quick. In this pledge, you can do two different shades of miniature, right? They've got the gray version, and then for like 50 extra bucks, you can get their Sun Drop version. And I am a little confused as to what is gray and what is Sundrop. If you can even stop right here on these models. I thought this was the Sundrop version because it kind of looks like a sunset with like a splash of orange and dark highlights, in my opinion. But maybe this is just the gray. I'm not sure.
Looks like they just have an Edison light sitting next to this model.
That might be, what it is, and this is just the gray model. But if you click on stretch goal spotlight on the left in the whatever this thing is called, actually below that there's stretch goal spotlight down just right there. This should be where the where we started today. So you'll see here's the Graveyard Dragon again, and in what seems to be maybe the gray. I'm not 100% sure. I thought this maybe was the Sundrop, but now if you click on Sundrop highlights in that drop down right there, they're showing them with this way dark red on them.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I don't even know what I imagine that the Sundrop is this darker reddish color, which looks really cool.
It does, yeah.
So I don't know. I was thinking maybe I could take the Sundrop off and just go with the gray if they look as good if they did up above. But you might be right. They probably have perfect lighting set up next to those pictures so that every like contour is shown really well.
Yes.
And that's probably not what it would look like on your table. It would look very much more gray. But anyways, Grim Coven, expensive big game. All right, that is almost it for our show today. We're going to end with just a couple of questions. Devin's going to pull up one more thing on the screen while I ask my question. And this is going to be the last time that I'm going to talk about this game on this show until there is some official news about it. My question for you, Devin, is will Silksong come out this year? It was rated in South Korea back in April, but it has been now over 740 days since the last official update on the game, which was this trailer that was shown at Xbox's show over 2 years ago. Are we all Silksong clowns? I think we probably are.
When you say a Silksong clown, do you mean that we're just excited for the game?
There's the meme online of the Hollow Knight sitting on the bench with like clown paint painted on his face, and I think it symbolizes online. Everybody posts it after almost every like showcase or event where Silksong was not in it, because we're all clowns for thinking that it's going to be at one of these events. I do know they're only like a 3-person team down there. They've made tens of millions of dollars on Hollow Knight, so they're and they made one of the most successful and best Metroidvanias of all time. So I'm sure there's so much pressure. They don't want to have a kind of a lit down after their banger of a game in Hollow Knight.
I had never seen that, and that looks so good.
I know.
Oh so my good, gosh. It's more colorful than the original.
Mm-hmm. Hornet is such a cool character. I don't know. I need to just forget that this game exists until something else is announced, because
oh my gosh, I want to play that.
I woke up early on Monday to watch this Nintendo Direct, knowing that it was going to be there. I knew it, and I am the Hollow Knight clown. I should have painted my face for this episode because I'm such a clown. So it's my goal to not say Silksong again until we have something. It has to be this. It has to be this year. It was just rated in South Korea.
I'm guessing it is. I don't know when they would drop it or what that would be a part of, but
I don't either. Maybe it'll be at Gamescom. But see, even me just talking about it now, I'm just becoming a Hollow Knight clown for the events in August. So this game does not exist until it is shown again in my mind, and I'm going to forget about it until tomorrow. The last thing we're going to talk about today, Devin, unless you have something else. Turkish Tuck wrote into us on Patreon, just like you can. If you join us over on Patreon, you can write into the show and we'll answer your questions live on the show every week. We won't necessarily answer every question, but we will save them all to be included in future episodes maybe, or on our monthly Q&As or at some point. So anyways, Turkish Tuck had a question that I think is probably more for you since you've played these two games he mentions more than me, but we can both maybe take a stab at it. He said, quote, "What is the best inventory management strategy for RPGs? I started Fallout 4 and Skyrim after you recommended them, but I keep getting overloaded with stuff and don't always know what to keep and what to toss. I'm used to Diablo and would always sell extra items in town, but the former games mentioned have way more stuff than could be feasibly used." End quote. I never know what to do with these either, because I feel like whenever I start playing Fallout and Skyrim, I'm like searching everywhere, every drawer, every trash can, and just finding like tons of, I don't even know, apple cores or like screwdrivers or insert useless thing here kind of. Some of them can be like turned into metal or something probably, or you can sell for scrap. But I've run into the same thing sometimes. I generally just throw it all in a chest back at my home base. But then it just sits there. I don't know if that's any better. What do you do with all this stuff, Devin?
Yeah, I've played a lot of games like this. Dragon's Dogma, Fallout, Skyrim, and so many more. I think it all depends on the type of player that you are. For example, if I have a spell in my hand that can heal me, I don't need to collect items that can build health vials. You know what I mean? Some people are just like, collect everything, throw it here, and then you'll just never touch it again in that chest, like you said. Go purchase a house in this town for $20,000, and then you have unlimited storage there. And in my head, I'm like, I'm just going to create a build in this game, and if I have enough heals and enough ammo, or whatever else I need, I'm going to sell everything so I'm maxed out on currency. But if you're the type of player that goes for lore and that one special item that's impossible to get unless you collect the magazine corner from the one merchant here that needs to be purchased from someone on the other side of the map to unlock this special sword or something, then I think there are reasons to collect everything. And I don't know. I'm the wrong person to ask because I play games in such a weird way. Once I have my build set, I don't collect everything. I've streamed a lot of games like this, and everyone's like, "You need to collect the batteries. You've got to pick up the batteries. You got to pick up the metal scraps or the aluminum. You're gonna need it for your home base that you're gonna build." And I'm like, I'm not gonna build a home base. And so I don't know. If you're gonna get immersed in a game for 500 hours, then sure, buy a house and store everything. But if you're gonna get immersed in a game for 50 hours, sell everything that seems useless, collect money, and then you just have a lot of money.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to think about it. I'm glad that there are options. You could take that kind of either direction, kind of branching just to match whatever play style you have. And I think that's probably the smartest thing to do, is to just focus on your build. Anything that isn't going to help your build, sell it.
Yeah. Unless you're trophy chasing or looking for some specific unique thing that you saw on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. That was a pretty good answer, Devin. I feel like you've got that down. That's probably what happens if you play Dragon's Dogma 2 and then Fallout 4 and Fallout New Vegas and Skyrim back to back.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it came down to
stuff.
Came down to simplicity for me. I was like, this is just too overwhelming. I'm gonna narrow this down. I know the game provides a massive spectrum of things I can do, but I'm gonna narrow it down to the few things that I like and not worry about every piece of this.
Yeah, cool. I think that's great advice. Turkish, I hope that was helpful. Let us know if you're still struggling with that, and we can talk about it again. But appreciate you writing into us. That is going to do it for our show today. Thanks so much for listening. It was a real fun time watching the Nintendo conference again as Devin scrubbed through that, and showing the games on the screen during Crowdfunding Corner, I think, is a blast too. So at least during some segments of the show, I do think that we'll continue to record at least Devin's screen. And maybe one of these episodes, his computer will explode during the episode, since he's recording like 7 things at once.
That'd
and he
be awesome.
had like 75 Chrome tabs open in prep for all of them. So we're pushing that thing to the limit, but it can handle it. It's like it's a Lamborghini of computers, so it better be able to handle it.
It's a bit ridiculous, yes.
All right, well, make sure to check out the rest of our stuff on the Super Game Brothers YouTube channel, our Instagram, and what's the other one called? TikTok accounts. Check out my board game channel if you wouldn't mind. It is Gaming Top Down. Just did a review of Fractured Sky, which I've talked about on the podcast before. Really fun game. Do other reviews and unboxings and playthroughs there as well. So for board games and video games, we've kind of got you covered both ways, and we try to make as much content as we can. We're not robots though, so we gotta live lives too. So yeah, appreciate you listening, and make sure to join the giveaway like I mentioned at the top. And I think that's probably all the housekeeping, so we're just gonna get out of here. I gotta take my wife to dinner so that she'll watch a scary movie with me. Like
exactly.
So maybe we'll watch Smile.
Yeah.
I don't think I can talk her into that one. She is terrified of that movie for whatever reason.
You got it. You got this.
We'll see. I'll report back. We'll see. All right, everyone. Thanks so much, and we will see you next week for episode 13. Have a good one.